Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. It is May 10th, 2022 already. Yes, and this is Level 2, Lesson 11. So I did Level 2, Lesson 10 last week. It segues so beautifully with Lesson 11. That's why I didn't actually jump back to Level 1. Today's topic is Planetary Ascension, Refinery of Light, and Refinery of Personality Characteristics. I'm really going through this stuff because it is so relevant to what we are experiencing as individuals and as a planet right now. So I recorded these almost 10 years ago, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago. And then it was meant to be like before you run a marathon or do some big thing, weight training, training to get strong, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, before actually setting out on the endeavor. We are right now on the path of the endeavor. It is quite amazing. And it is so incredibly, like, first of all, I'd say profound thanks and appreciation to everybody who has been, with me on this journey, who has been doing the self-cultivation work, who's been following my work and my ideas. All of this is reciprocal, and we are all interconnected, and it's interconnected with us as humans, and even everything down to, I'll talk about microbes in your tummy, and everything to beautiful people like my dog, who's sitting on her little dog bed back there, because we've got to give Cheeky some positive affiliation here. She's sleeping so beautifully. Hi, Angela. So good to see you tuning in. Talking all about preparing for this for a very long time and now actually undergoing the experience. So yeah, when I recorded these lessons, they were meant to be like yoga of the perception, beginning to stretch and expand what can be conceived of, what can be imagined, and to begin aligning with those timelines and possibilities. And here we are, like 8 or 9 years later, actually in that world, actually aligning with those levels of possibility. I hear I'm just getting going, so you're not too late, Angela. So good to see your face. Hi. And we have both, hold on, let me pull up the participants, both Angela and Angel. So two people with very similar names that are very angelic are both tuning in today. So, and I just want to say a welcome, because I think Angel is a very, very new student who's just joining us in the middle of the semester. So just wait until they get on board. But I'll just reaffirm to anyone who's watching this or anybody who wants to join up, it's never too late. So even though we're on lesson 10 and this semester is already in full swing, we've been going for a while, not too late to join up, not too late to catch up. And I have all of these lectures archived, and all of my lecture notes are archived, so you can always like read the synopsis and know what's going on. But also there's no pressure. The way that I handle all of this, or I should say better words, approach all of this, it is a spiritual unfoldment. It's not meant to be something where it's like you're being pressured or you're being punched in the face, like you better ascend now or else. It's not like that, and it's not supposed to be that. It really is supposed to be more of a birth. And for any beautiful people that have actually given birth, like I haven't given physical birth, but much acknowledgement to anybody who's given physical birth, that you have the experience of what it is like to have to be able to like be under pressure, but also relax and allow the cosmic energies to flow through you. That is what ideally the approach that we are doing. Like we are definitely under pressure, and the sense of urgency might be a better way of doing it. Like, okay, this is all happening now and synchronizing, and all of these things are coming together and are synchronizing harmonically, coinciding or coming together as the parts are adding up to the whole. So timing matters, just like in music, timing matters. So that matters. And also don't be too afraid to play a wrong note. And also please be in the relaxation of the moment, just like when you're playing music, that it's much, much better when you're not under pressure and when you're allowing it to flow through you. So we walk a fine line of balancing all of these various ways of being in doing this planetary ascension, which is literally giving birth to a new reality. So just going to drink a little something to reiterate. This is lesson 11. The topic is planetary ascension, which also relates to personal ascension, refinery of light, refinery of personality characteristics. Let me grab my sculpture, because I know we're going to want to do this too. I'm always using this one over here. Okay, so beginning with the idea that you are a refinery of light. Like, when I show this sculpture and when I show the lower quadrant over here, and it is shaped kind of like this, this vortex that energy spirals up, that's the idea of the refinery, going from the outer, fatter edge or wider edge to the pointy middle that is the specific. So going from the general to the specific. And it's very much analogous to if you've ever used binoculars or been to the optometrist where they're fitting you for glasses and they turn these different lenses and turn the lenses, turn the lenses, turn the lenses to focus the light. And then at a certain point, click, I can see clearly. That is exactly what this is all about. Your experience within this refinery of light as consciousness, what is being refined is your pathway through time. That you have been kind of through this series of where there's many multiple possibilities. Like it could be this, it could be this, it could be all these different things. And it is a sense of narrowing down those possibilities until it's not about anything. It's not just like anything can happen. This could happen, random peripheral possibilities. It's not about that. It is really about focusing in on one very specific core timeline. That is a timeline that represents not only a series of events, activities, experiences that you can have in the physical outer world, it also represents your characteristics or the recipe of you, as everything that you're not is kind of pared away. Like, you know, when you do a sculpture, sometimes you start with a block of wood or plaster and you carve away all the stuff that's not supposed to be there. And then you're just left with the essential form of who you really are, of what you really are. That is everything that is going on right now on a soul level, meaning your trajectory through time. So to me, soul is not only something that's like an ephemeral part of self. It's really the story of you, like a narrative or a timeline. I was here doing this, I was here doing this, and now I'm here doing this, and my soul's journey takes me here. So it's a refining of the characteristics of your soul. It's a refinement of what is your true ego or your true self state. That some things are not the real you, that they are just the reflection of you behaviorally in a particular context. Like when I worked at this job, I had to wear this uniform and I wore my hair like this and I did this like this. And then when I left that place, it was no longer relevant to me to act like that or look like that. That was only relevant to that context. It's not an eternal aspect of yourself. It was just the uniform that you wore for that moment or within that context. So everything that we are paring away, carving away, or focusing in on are what are the essential characteristics of who you are, life experiences, all the things that define you as the true version of you. And when I say the true version of you on that central core timeline, it is all about being an ascended master. So we are in personal ascension, the process. You could say you are an ascending master. I think it's important to claim this and not feel like, am I too egotistical? Like my shoulders go down. Am I too egotistical? Am I allowed to say these things? Like it is essential. Like please make your spine be erect. Please say, yes, you are on this journey of ascension. Please know and understand without too much egotism, that is false pride, that each one of us has a central core timeline. There's a loud plane going by where I live. Don't mind any background noise. Maybe my mic is so focused that it doesn't pick it up. But when you're going up that central core timeline, what you're doing is being refined in your experiences to be in alignment with who you are as a master of reality, a master of the heart, a master of being able to navigate the possibilities of the world, like being a really good driver. You're like, no, I don't drive on that dead end. I don't drive on that dead end. I drive on this road. That is the road of eternity. And I know who I am and I know what I'm here to do. That's the paraphrasing of what it is to be in these levels of mastery. And I call it being a virtuous virtuoso, like a virtuoso plays the violin. And I talk about being a genetic virtuoso, because once again, to just, for anyone, Angel, thank you for being here. I think that you're a super new student, so thank you. And in catching up, you might be learning my vocabulary and what I talk about. That these timelines are intimately connected with your DNA's structure and your DNA's behavior. So a timeline not merely being something that is an abstraction outside of who you are. Like, you know, I'm the car, but I'm driving on a road and the timeline is the road. Timelines are internalized and they are internally represented by, hi Aaron, so good to see you, the blueprint of who you are. So your DNA is not just a blueprint for like having brown eyes or what is the shape of your hands or what is the shape of your skeletal system. It is really a blueprint for who you are in reality, the structure of your physical body, the events that you're experiencing through time, and your personality and characteristics, and so much more. And on I'm diverging from my notes now, on a much larger cosmic level, I feel propelled to share with you that DNA is similar to the blockchain as it exists in cryptocurrency, blockchain as being a way of transferring large amounts of data over time, that all of the transactions that a person has in cryptocurrency, like whatever it is, if it's Bitcoin, somebody bought 10 Bitcoin and they sold it over here, that's in the record. And every time you do a transaction, that sale is in the record, and it is part of the cumulative information load that is transferred every time you make a transaction. That is analogous to what is happening in your DNA, that you have an enormous, imagine telescoping back behind my shoulders, time tunnels that go all the way back into other layers of reality. Where did DNA come from? This is like your soul journey. Where did DNA come from? What has been happening in all of these different transactions in DNA? What does that mean? A transaction in DNA, it means that there are influences, characteristics that you internalize, things that are exchanged, energies that are exchanged, influences that happen and that occur, and changes that transformative changes that happen as an end result of that. Hi, Charlie B, so good to see you. So one example is the idea of like, how are humans and mammals able to have live birth, and like, you know, for a fertilized egg to be inside of the human female womb to be able to gestate and grow into a successful pregnancy. Like, this is different than fish. Fish lay their eggs in the water, and then the male comes along and puts a bunch of sperm on top, and they just kind of generate there. They're not gestating in a womb, right? So there was a specific gene transfer that actually happened in what the present objective reality would define as, you know, hundreds of thousands of years ago, where genes were naturally inserted into the burgeoning human form that allowed for this ability to carry live birth. And it actually relates to rabbits, that humans and rabbits have ancient cousins in the relationship of the genetic structure that allows for conception and gestation within the human womb. And this is just one example that's like a very literal, objective, materialist example, and so much more, and so much more, that there's a great deal of complexity in what DNA is actually doing beyond the sharing of physical characteristics, but into the sharing of consciousness, timelines, and possibilities. And then I'll also relate this to our planet and other planets. This is not the only place in the world where DNA exists, and this is not the only place in the world where consciousness exists. And a lot of the experience of interacting with otherworldly creatures, organisms, and places and civilizations has to do with DNA. Where did humanity come from? How are we on this planet? When we have been on this planet, are we the only people that have ever influenced our DNA? So these are rhetorical questions. When in being in this world, I should say, we had a particular original pristine DNA structure, and then we have been influenced or modified several times. And this most profound influence and modification is really what I'm going to talk about today, the things of what we call them putis, pesky occupiers of the interstices. When I talk about the interstices, I'm talking about this membrane here that is at the edge of the time vortex, and I usually draw it as a flat cross section in my little whiteboard sessions. And I use the word putis as a relatively lighthearted and non-emotionally charged word for what has been known mythologically and in human religion as demons. And when I use that word, it's like we think like something really evil and bad. A more neutral way of looking at them, even though they can be incredibly harmful and cause a great deal of suffering, they are fragmentary thought forms that are the consciousness residue of unresolved emotional issues in the larger body of the cosmos, in the cosmic body. So in your own body, you're supposed to have beautiful blood vessels with blood and lymphatic system, a flow of energy throughout your body. Let me draw stuff for you. You're supposed to, in your physical body, have a beautiful flow of energy. Energy comes from your heart and goes to your extremities and comes back to your heart again. And in the time field, we are also supposed to experience a similar flow. Let me draw it. So first, for anyone who's new, here's my cross section. This is the cross section of a torus, or a donut shape. This is the singularity, the 0th dimension, and also the infinity point. I make a little infinity symbol next to there, and then I'll get a different color for you. This quadrant down here is what I draw as the time vortex, with the idea that, recap for anyone who's an expert, and you know what, I'll change this view just in case anybody doesn't want their pictures to be on the final video. No offense to anybody. I do it for your privacies. Beginning, this is recap for everyone who's already been in the class, beginning here at year 0 or your birth, and moving upwards in this direction towards year 100 or infinity. And that the idea also is that these pathways are time spirals, because this is actually a 3rd dimensional structure, but I'm drawing it in simplified form as a flat cross section, almost as lollipop sticks, beginning here and then moving upward and terminating on the membrane of death. And each one of these is a timeline, and each one of these termini, or multiple terminus spots, that's the moment of death. And so all of these blue bubbles that I'm drawing on the membrane of death are the last flash frozen moments of what happened on those particular timelines. And each one of those timelines, I'll turn up my piano, hold on a second, is kind of like, oh, can you hear me? One note on the piano, like, is this the right note? No, that's not the right note. Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's that one. Maybe it's that one. So in many ways, flying blind, having to go through every single possible iteration within the time field of what is a possible version of your life. So in this version of your life, you were born and you died instantaneously. In this version of your life, you were born and you died when you were 5 years old and you fell off your bicycle and smashed your brains into the pavement. Like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be lighthearted. Fell out of an apple tree, whatever it was. In this version of reality, you make it to age 45 and then a Mack truck, smashes you across on the highway. And let's change to a different color here. Let's use purple as the beautiful ascension timeline. In this central core timeline, oops, wait, I have to draw it better. You know that my little magical pen doesn't always draw in a straight line. In this version of reality, you don't hit the membrane of death. You actually go right up the central core pathway, and you are able to align with your true behaviors, true life experiences, true personality characteristics, not go off to the edge and make it back home, actually, because you actually emanated from that central core point, that is the source that emanated you, and then you're going now in the direction of going back home. And this is similar to the biofeedback loop, the neurological biofeedback loop, and also the the source. And pardon me if my mind just wandered, because I want to tell you about another thing. The source is also the destination. This is a biofeedback loop similar to what I described last week in terms of the sun sending out emanations of light waves, and then those bounce off of something or an object or consciousness that are then bounced back to the sun. But what I wanted to talk to you about are, within this chakra system here, the sense of having 2 different complementary flows of energy. So I was talking about, in your healthy body, the flow of energy that goes around with your blood system, your blood supply, and your lymphatic and craniosacral systems and all of that. Ideally, in this chakra system, you have free-flowing energy with no impediments, no blockages, no blood clots, where energy comes outward from the source and swirls around with no time lag back to the destination. Right there, right like that. Big, so these go in big giant circles. They also go in a figure 8. So you just saw a circle, let me draw for you a figure 8. Woohoo, that's a beautiful figure 8. And many, many multiple figure 8s are how we come up with that beautiful vortex shape. Here I'll draw kind of like a very, very fast vortex. So you've got this vortex or half chakra that is made out of many, many multiple figure 8s that are flowing around. And you also have, wait, let me rewind and get the right color. You also have energy that is flowing in this up and down motion, up and down like this, up and down like this, up and down like this. So you have some energies that are flowing around and around and around in circles, and also in these beautiful figure 8 motions. And you also have some energies that are going up and down, up and down, up and down. And you could think of them as having a mirror here and a mirror here, and then the endless reflection of light or consciousness particles in between those two mirrors. So this is one of the definitions of infinity. Infinity in math, in the math sense, can mean starting from one point over here and then traveling infinitely in one direction, a line that never ends. Infinity, and infinite travel can also mean an endless reflection back and forth within a finite space. And that is what you really get when you're looking at the time field, because you have these mirrors here, and you have other back and forth reflections up and down over here. You have other back and forth reflections up and down over here, and also to the left and right. And it all creates a big giant oscillation. So this, I'm giving you a static drawing over here, but with your mind, start in your inner eyesight, start to imagine this oscillation jumping up and down here, this oscillation left and right here, this oscillation up and down here. All of these are these amazing vibrations, oscillations, standing waves, in, just regular words, jumping up and down, that is part of infinity. So infinity can also be defined, the infinite journey of consciousness and light can also be defined as an infinite hall of mirrors. I'll go back to my face, like a reflection between two things where there's no friction. So the love tone, that's kind of a low love tone. Love tone, very high love tone, love tone. When I talk about this, because I talk about the distinction between love at the level of the heart, unconditional love, which is literally a tone, like bum, tone. What that is an equal, the tone that is created from equal sending and receiving, frictionless perpetual motion machine. And that is supposed to be our experience as we are here in embodiment, before the genetic degradation of our form as humans. Anthropomorphic means human form. Before the form that we're in became degraded, don't get down about it. Put your shoulders up. Don't feel down about getting degraded, because that's what this ascension process is all about. It is kind of like saying, like, why do we have to rise up? What happened? Why are we down? Why are we down in the mud? Why do we have to rise up? And this is also part of that allegory of the lotus flower that grows out of the mud, like it comes out of the swampy depths and then its head kind of comes up out of the mud, and the head lifts up and then it blooms into this beautiful multi-petaled lotus form. That is what we are doing, like literally up your spine, rising up out of the mud, and then out of your crown, blooming this beautiful multi-flowered lotus. What is the mud that we're rising up out of? It is not just materiality or being embedded within the material world, or as light that is slowed down in its journey. Being material is sacred. It is part of our sacred journey, because a lot of people are like, I hate being in the material world. My shoulders go down. I'm so dragged down. I hate the mud. I hate the swamp. Like, I know a lot of beautiful people who feel this way. That's why I'm being lighthearted about it. The sense of heaviness, boredom, ennui, and being really dragged down, because a lot of people that I know are very much fairy people, elevated people, ephemeral people, people that are used to flying around on wings of pure light. And for them to be down in the mud, they're like, in the mud, monster truck. They're not necessarily enjoying. And I also use that as a lighthearted sense of, like, the lower vibration, lower mentality, what it is like to be embedded in the world of less civilized things, the monster truck rally world of spirituality. I joke about the barbarian value system coming out of the mud. Why are we coming out of the mud? As I lightheartedly talk about these things, because also remember, like I talk about the Pooties lightheartedly coming out of the mud, like in acknowledgement, the mud can really be very uncomfortable. This can be a place of profound suffering, of profound degradation, of profound trauma. But I try not to go into those frequencies when I'm talking about it, because everything that I want to share is about empowerment and uplift, and also the very real positivity and hopefulness of what we are experiencing now. But this speaks to, why are we ratcheting upward? Or why are we, like, when I say ratcheting, like leveling up, we're kind of bootstrapping or leveraging ourselves up. Why is this necessary? Because we got de-elevated, we got brought down. Why did that happen? Because literally there was our original pristine genetic code. What was, I would say, God's intention, the divine creator intention for our physical life, what life was like, was intended to be like, and what our journey was intended to be like. So when you're reading the brochure for incarnation, you're reading like, hey, you're going to get a body, you're going to eat nothing but pure sunlight, you're going to remain completely connected to divinity and remember your divine identity, even as you individuate and branch off into having individual experiences. This is from my teaching from last week about lesson 10, becoming a photon as a feeler, being emitted from the sun, super symmetry in having a photonic twin. My twin stays at home, but I go off on my adventures, get embodied, get incarnated, have these experiences, and then right back home. Dear sun, to the sun and the stars, here's what I experienced today. I did this and I did this and I ate a sandwich and I went here and I went here, or broadcasting it in real time, like while I'm eating the food, sending all of that energy and inspiration back. That's in the brochure of life, like going on an amazing adventure cruise. And what actually happened for us in experienced reality was like the Titanic. Like we did not sign on for being crashed into an iceberg and sunk down to the bottom of the ocean, which is analogous to what we have experienced in the sense of losing divine connection. Why did this happen? At the crown chakra, there's now a sense of diminishment or disconnection due to genetic degradation. And what that looks like in your chakras is, instead of being perfectly up and down like this, in alignment with that central core timeline of ascension, you as the very definition of whom you are destined to be in the divine plan, in literally God's divine plan for you. Instead, tilted over to the side so that your timeline is going up and touching the membrane of death, and you are on a limited timeline that ends in mortality, some mortal event that does not lead to that culminative aha moment of, I remember I'm God. I'm God. I remember. How could I ever have forgotten that? But self-realization and self-remembrance and reconnection to the divine creator consciousness level that emanated you and created you. Spoiler alert, it's all you. Spoiler alert, it is all you. The sun is you. Every single point of light is you. Every single alive being, including my little dog over here and the microbes in my tummy that I'm going to talk about, is all you. And there's as a brief aside, interesting physicist from the 1950s named Richard Feynman, that I give credit to him because he had this more scientific, rational, objective assertion that everything is just one photon constantly being emitted from the singularity portal or from the center of the sun or the star or the chemical, nuclear, atomic place that emits photons in his world of objective materialism, emitting one photon out and then it returns backward, kind of like going backwards in a film. First I go forwards in the movie, then I reach my destination, final denouement of the movie, then rewind, reeling it all back in like a big giant fishing line, and then emitting it again, kind of like in an endless embroidery. You know how embroidery on your clothing is made out of many loops? These are many, many, many time loops. So this interesting physicist who had a lot of interesting ideas promoted the idea that there's not many multiple photons in the world. Like you look around, what's coming off of the sun looks like an uncountable number of photons, or everything that's bouncing off of my face into your eyeballs is, billions and billions of photons just in one moment. But the idea is that every single one of those photons or feelers of light is being emitted, having its life experience, and then looping back to the sun and being re-emitted. And what we're experiencing is the overlapping everythingness of all time now. I know at this point, language goes timey-wimey, and we no longer have effective language to be able to talk about things because most of our language has been developed in the sense of a linear understanding of time, in the sense of great practicality, like first breakfast, then lunch, then dinner. I will meet you at breakfast, I will then meet you at lunch, and then I will then meet you at dinner. And we don't have effective time languaging to be able to say, well, first I'm going to do a time loop and I'm going to meet you at dinner, then I'm going to go back to the sun, then I'm going to do a time loop and I'm going to meet you at lunch 10 years ago, then I'm going to go back to the sun, then I'm going to do a time loop and I'm going to meet you at dinner time 15 million years in the future, then I'm going to go back to the sun. That is nonlinear experience of time, and that is analogous to when you become the adult winged form. You're no longer a little ant walking along the flat surface of time, but you gain your wings dun, 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 your wings like this, and you jump off the surface of time, and then you fly around from breakfast time to dinner time, 15 million years in the future, 15 million years in the past. You begin to experience time in a nonlinear fashion. We are moving into those states again. And everything that I've been teaching about in terms of yoga of the perception and planting these seeds in your consciousness and having those reverberations or beautiful ripples of consciousness spread outward through the human mycelium is all about this ascending or leveling back up. And I'm diverging from my notes a little bit, but it's important, like as these things come to me extemporaneously. So I want to also talk a little bit about what life was like in Atlantis or the antediluvian world, before antediluvian meaning pre-flood, which I use as a mythological reference to quote unquote the flood, Noah's flood of the Bible here. A sense that before the flood, humans lived a very long time and they had a different level of divine connection and experience, although, you know, I'm not a biblical literalist, but I speak through these myths and stories that resonate with your own religious teaching and upbringing and cultural paradigms. Antediluvian, pre-flood. And also this is the sense of what washed away Atlantis, this beautiful, sophisticated, high technology culture. And when I say technology, I do not mean like a cell phone like this, even though we use a liquid crystal display to be able to see things. I am talking about this type of a crystal display where you could see directly by talking with or communing with a crystal that contains information. This crystal does contain information. Crystals are amazing, and the way that you access them is with your tendril of attention here, your tendril of attention. I reach out with the tendril of my attention, I place it on this crystal, I ingest the energies from this crystal, it comes into me, and then I'm able to see and know and understand on a direct level. That, and if that sounds like, wow, like that sounds out there, Aurora, like I'm just stopping for a moment to imagine what it might be like from the vantage point of the person that is perceiving this, possibly for the first time. Like, wow, because this is a very technological world in a lot of in many ways, where people are not yet effectively connected to their natural capacities and abilities to read and understand the time field directly. The whole idea of your third eye, your attention, your tendril of attention, is that when you are in your fully informed genetic state, with your chakras in alignment, you are able to use this. It is your master teacher. It is the presence of Christ. There has been a beautiful master teacher that's an embodied teacher from 2000 years ago. And I always give beautiful love and acknowledgement and recognition to the life of that embodied person and the positive impact that that has had on many people's lives. And also what I'm talking about when I talk about this is the non-denominational abstract presence that is also very important in our lives. It is not necessarily religious in the sense that you do not have to be affiliated with a particular denomination or church or anything in order to be able to align with Christ consciousness. So a Hindu, a Muslim, a Jew, a Christian, anybody can have Christ consciousness because it's literally an aperture that is inside of your mind. It is your pineal gland. And there have been many avatars, avatar, one who has come across water, avatars of Christ consciousness throughout the ages, and that the master teacher from 2000 years ago is, was, and remains, you know, a great, amazing person. When I talk about connecting with the master teacher here, I'm talking about an abstract presence. So like I am a teacher that is here in the physical reality, and you can catch me on YouTube and you can watch my shows and you can, you know, put them on, you know, whatever, while you're sauteing some broccoli and learn about things, right? And I'm happy to perform that function, to be that here for people who are in the process of activating their inner teacher. The whole idea is that through self-cultivation, cultivate your inner teacher, and also you get your library card of the cosmos and your connection to the librarian that tells you, you're going to check out this book, then you're going to learn about this, then you're going to learn about this, then you're going to look over here, then you're going to look over here. So it is really all of these things, they are innate, in naturally occurring, inevitable inner capacities, in the same way that ascension is baked in. It's baked into who you are. So it's not just for special people. Christhood is not just for special people. It is for everyone. It is also for dogs. It is also for microbes. You might be like, Aurora, no, stop. How can a microbe ascend? How can a bacterium have Christ inside of it, but you have to understand that when I show, do I have a chakra system available? Hold on a second. Here, I'll bring up a picture of a chakra. Hold on, let me, I know when I touch the computer, it bounces and makes the screen shake. So let me do my magic trackpad, share a picture of chakras. So this is an abstraction here. What you're seeing are these rainbow colored vortex shapes that are chakras or spinning wheels of energy. And then you see the outline in white of a human anthropomorphic person that is sitting in meditation. But you can also take away that human form there and you can draw a one-celled organism that is like a lactobacillus, a microbe that's in my tummy or on my skin. You can also take that out of there and you can draw a dog, or you can draw a horse, or you can draw a dolphin, or you can even draw a tree. Yes, trees have amazing, big, beautiful chakra systems that are toroidal energy fields all around them. You can also put a planet in the center where that, white outline of a human form is. So yes, when you go into where a tree's stalk is coming out of the ground, you're literally in that central apple core, the singularity, the ascension zone of where that tree is. And then it has this big giant energy field that comes out around it. It is that energy field shape of the chakras, and which is of course leaning extreme close up, a precursor to the flying rainbow lasagna shape. So that's a torus, and this is a hypertorus or higher dimensional torus. I'm doing a little bit of recap because we're literally halfway through the semester and we have a few beautiful new people climbing on board. So I'm just doing a little bit of recap to you. Taurus into hypertorus, Taurus into flying rainbow lasagna, the precursor or the raw ingredients being then changed, shifted, and morphed into the higher dimensional form. That primary shape of the chakras, once you understand or comprehend, once you comprehend and embody the truthfulness and the ramifications and significance of that form, you can then take that as a template and apply it to a microscopic organism like a one-celled animal, or even smaller in atomic level, or scale it up to the level of a planet, or scale it up to the level of a solar system, because the sun also has a giant, I can't make my arms long enough. My arms stretch out past the exoplanets. That's how long my arms would have to be in order to make the heliosphere, but a giant sun-sized chakra system, which is what we live within. And then even larger, a galactic-sized chakra system, which I cannot make my arms long enough. Cannot even imagine being that big, but it's big. And that's just one galaxy. We are one galaxy in a sea of galaxies. And there are all of these chakra systems of the entire world. And that's only one level of reality. Then there are multiple levels of reality. Whoa. Pull back, mind blown. Yes. So Planetary Ascension, we are in the process of redefining death. So there was a time when we lived in the antediluvian sophisticated culture when death had never been invented or experienced. That's what I remember my life like in terms of being a physical embodiment person. So here I am in this world that is a world of mortality and a world of eating physical food. And I joke about this lovingly, but literally when I first came here, incarnating into this body, walking in and being the presence aurora in a human physical form in this time place, I did not know about the necessity of eating physical food. I thought, according to the brochure, last time I incarnated, we ate nothing but pure light. I'm like, okay, just ready to eat some pure light. And I was just doing my light eating exercises. And then I didn't understand like why my body didn't feel healthy, why I didn't feel strong and vital. I felt like very weak. And then also my body got smaller. I was like, what is going on? I literally had to learn, oh, around here you have a denser body. And to feed your denser body, you have to eat denser food. You got to chew it up with your mouth, crystals. That's right, everybody. Your entire alimentary tract has been repurposed in this time place. So I went through the same learning. Oh, let me just close my window. Hold on one moment, because there's so many loud noises outside. Yes, the alimentary tract has been repurposed from what it was originally made for. I call these your mouth crystals. They are absolutely crystals and crystalline structures just like this, all right? Mineral crystalline structures. Your teeth vibrate and they are connected to nerves, and they go all the way up your face and connect directly into your brain. And your teeth are like the tuners on a crystalline radio station to be able to tune what you are saying telepathically and what radio station you're talking to, and making these transmissions. So first of all, in our repurposed state, when you're eating, like imagine that I'm eating like a wonderful sandwich, whatever type of food you like. I just want you to imagine something good, because a lot of the times I use the expression of an example of some fried chicken that I had at a holiday party like 10 or 15 years ago. And people are like, I'm a vegan, like I can't imagine eating fried chicken, whatever type of sandwich you really like. But when you imagine your teeth are biting into that sandwich, your teeth are literally telepathically transmitting as crystalline structures, as like radio antenna sender receivers to the sun and the stars. This is what the sensation is like for me to chomp into a beautiful, whatever, avocado and hummus sandwich, and the tastes and the textures and the nutrients that are in there, because all of those nutrients are solidified light, and you are in a solidified light body. So yes, I had a steep learning curve when I first came here. I'm like, gonna eat pure light, then it doesn't work that way around here. You got to learn a new way of being. And this happened for me in chronological adulthood in the body. This happened for you guys in infancy. When you came in as a beautiful little infant, you're here in mama's arms, and you're like, hi, I'm from heaven. I'm used to eating nothing but pure light. You're like, I don't know what's going on around here. And your alimentary tract literally did not know, like, yeah, you're gonna have to put food in here in order to survive. And remember, where did you come from? You came from your mother's womb, where here's your belly button. Everything came in through your belly button. You're like, I just float here and the food comes to me. I don't have to do anything. I'm doing the backstroke, right? Like I joke, you guys, about doing the backstroke, having not a care, having, wait. I like this with my electrolyte water. Having not a care in the world, simply floating and having things brought to you through your umbilicus. And P.S. I also did not know the significance of the umbilicus because I was not the participant here when the body was gestating. So I had to learn about that in 2015. I had a beautiful healing session with, I'll tell you who this person is because she's in Ukiah, California. But if you ever want to have a wonderful, profound session with a Reiki master, her name is Heliana. I highly recommend her. She's a beautiful person. And she actually had to teach me and tell me, like, oh, like your belly button is a significant part on your body. And here's the function that it performs. And it actually once brought your body food. And I was like, now all of these things made more sense to me. So I had to learn a lot of things in adulthood that you guys learned in your early time of infancy. But your initial alimentary tract did not know how to accept food and nourishment and light and love through that. And it's through the process of breastfeeding that you have to learn. And also I talked last week about how human breast milk has natural occurring endocannabinoids, that you have a naturally occurring endocannabinoid system. That means natural, endo meaning within, cannabinoid meaning from cannabis. And everybody's like, cannabis, baby smoking pot, what are you talking about? I'm being facetious, but people often go there in their levels of skepticism and disbelief. I clutch my pearls. What are you talking about? Giving kids pot? No. This is from your mama's breast milk. Naturally occurring cannabinoid substances are a part of the nutrition profile of breast milk, which is incredibly complex, and the body is a miracle, and the capacity to sustain new life. And the cannabinoids are a big part of priming the digestive tract to be able to be hungry, to be able to say, food goes in here, food goes into here, and then food comes out the other end. That's like your basic life lessons, your primary red chakra lessons of when you came here, when you were a little baby. Like babies actually don't have it that easy. They're like, I have to learn how to eat. I have to learn how to digest, because what do babies do? You guys, I mean, mamas know. Angela, I think you have a new baby in your family. I'm sure you know that. What do babies do? Like they spit up a lot because they eat, but they don't know how to keep it in. And then they don't know how to regulate their digestion or their burps or their gas or anything like that. And sometimes they're like, something's going on in my tummy. I don't know what's going on. I'm upset. And then they burp. They're like, oh, that's what all it was. That kind of like, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to regulate that. So yeah, we as adults have learned how to regulate our digestive tract. Food goes in here. I swallow it down. It stays here. It gets then digested. So repurposing. We have had to learn how to repurpose. And I call these your mouth crystals. They were not originally intended for mashing up potatoes or avocados or whatever it is that we eat. And then also microbes. So a big part of human breast milk is the inoculation of the baby's not only immune system, but their digestive tract with healthy microbes such as lactobacillus. Lactobacillus helps to digest milk, lactose. And lactobacillus is a little tiny one-celled organism that's here in partnership with us, that you need to have those partners. And we actually have 3 to 5 pounds of bacteria that are these healthy, it's not parasites, they're called mutualists. I give to you and you give to me. So this is different than my, I'm looking out for number one. So in amoeba would be considered looking out for number one. Amoebas are like, I take from you and I cause amoebic dysentery and I ain't helping you out at all. And I don't care about you and I'll kill you. Got it? The amoebas are like, I'm going to just do it, or any kind of parasite that's like that. Tapeworms are also similar. They are not mutualists. They'll take from you until they kill you. But lactobacilli and other of these healthy microbiome that is in your tummy help you to digest the various different food items that you eat, because otherwise they would simply be inert substances in the body system. Then you put, literally, this is a miracle. So I'm talking today about many aspects of our biology that might seem mundane or obvious, that I recognize and acknowledge as profound miracles. Digestion is one of them, the sense of you are a physicality being that is solidified light. You're putting solidified light, which is food, into your solidified light, but then you're turning it back into light. This is the topic of today, Refinery of Light, Refinery of Consciousness. And you're in a partnership with tiny little microbes that help to unlock or make available that light that is in the material form. Another great portion of the miracle that's happening here is photosynthesis. That is the word that means light making stuff, light into matter. Plants do photosynthesis. They make light into matter. So when you are driving around or walking around and you see like grass or trees on the side of the road, you're driving through a giant miraculous landscape. It's covered in miracles, miracles everywhere. And these little tiny cell structures that are inside of plants that are called chlorophyll, that are like, they catch light, they're solar collectors, they take the light, which is pure energy, pure consciousness, pure timelines, possibilities, and probabilities, and turn them into something solid. That in the plant's leaf is usually a starch, kind of like a simplified sugar, that stores that light and then makes it into something solid. A translation is happening. Pure light into matter, photosynthesis, and it's happening all day long, right around us. People mostly are immune to or under acknowledging of this miracle. And some people are even like, get the Roundup weed killer. Like, I got too many weeds growing in my sidewalk here. These weeds are so pesky. This photosynthesis miracle that's happening here is so pesky. I've got, weeds growing up into my sidewalk. Like, you know what I mean? Or whatever, get the weed whacker. We got to get rid of this miracle that's happening here. Too much miracle. The forcefulness, the impact of life, plants that grow everywhere, including through cracks in the sidewalk in city places. The forcefulness, what I mean is like you can't keep it down. You can't stop plants from growing. Plants grow everywhere. Even if you have a bottle of water, if you have like a clear bottle of water and you leave it out at room temperature, it grows algae. That's plants. And that a lot of photosynthesis that's happening in our world happens also in oceans and lakes and giant bodies of water where you grow algae, which is, again, light is taken, ingested, not captured, because it's not like a slave that is captured, but is sequestered. Light is taken from its journey and then turned into physical matter through chlorophyll. The algae does that in a large sense in our world. And then fish eat the algae, or grass does it. And then, animals, cows eat the grass. And then we drink the milk, or we eat the cows, or we eat the fish. And then, of course, there's direct plants, also things like that. We live on a planet. We require plants as intermediaries. Now I joke about how experts do star travel. I'm an expert. I do star travel on wings of pure consciousness. I did not come here in a clank metal spaceship, and I don't advocate for that type of point A to point B linear clank technological transportation of the physicality structure, because when you do expert star travel, you do not have to get into your spacesuit a la Major Tom, fly off into the sky with your food in, protein pills or toothpaste tubes, because you are still essentially tied to the need for plants. Plants are our allies. They are intermediaries. I'm just drinking my beautiful electrolyte water here. They are our allies. They are our necessary intermediaries. We are tied to the planet through plants, because we don't, in this present genetically modified form, have that capacity to ingest light directly. But I told you anecdotally, ah, ha, 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 I thought I could just come into my body and eat nothing but pure light. This gig is going to be easy. I've done this before. And also where I came from in ancient Atlantis or concurrent parallel Atlantis, everybody ascended. Nobody did a gutter ball. Nobody ever hit the membrane of death. Ascension was inevitable. You lived for an extended amount of time with no perilous teetering on the edge of death. And then you ascended inevitably. And that is part of the journey of being here. And that there was no, that's what I mean by the time of immortality. We were all gods and goddesses, and we remain these divine organisms, these divine presences, even as we have been modified and placed into a physicality structure that is now defined as mortal, fragile, requiring constant care, feeding, protection from the elements, and vulnerable to the perilous nature of death. Death, the membrane of death on all sides of us. Like you do the wrong thing, go in the wrong direction. I'm over here, I'm heading towards the membrane of death. I'm over here, I'm heading towards the membrane of death. The idea of activating the inner eyesight and the crown chakra is the great teacher, the master teacher, guiding you away from death. And not just being like, I'm afraid of death, like I'm running from lions, or I'm running from, creatures that are trying to, I'm running from monsters that are trying to eat me. Like that's a very low level survival paradigm. It is really about moving towards the ideal behavioral characteristics, self-identity, and experiences in reality that define who you are on your divine pathway. Not just running in fear away from lions and tigers and bears, oh my, but running towards the activities that you really want. This has everything to do with what we are experiencing right now in Planetary Ascension. I've been here for 20 years as Aurora, as a walk-in, and I've witnessed magnificent changes and redirection and focusing of the lens of humans, human consciousness, and human fabric of society. A lot of people were very afraid of what was going to happen in terms of various different apocalyptic scenarios, mostly as programmed, I hesitated over that word, instilled, mostly as being instilled from the mythological teachings at the end of the human New Testament, known as the Book of Revelation. Book of Revelation, even if you are not a literalist or a Christian believer, has had a huge impact on the programming of the expectations of the human mind. If you want to delve deep, Terence McKenna, the teacher about psychoactive mushrooms, had a great talk or lecture, impromptu lecture, all about your personal eschaton. That's ESCHATON, eschaton, versus the planetary eschaton, or end of days. Your own death as being a personal eschaton, and the pre-programmed expectation of a time that would be the end of the world, also known as Ragnarok from the Nordic tradition, or the end of the Kali Yuga, the time of great destruction from the Hindu tradition, end of a great cycle, and time of total destruction. So it's not, we're going to play that song, On the Eve of Destruction. I'm sorry, I go into these songs. You can play that one in your playlist after class. But there's a reason why these are instilled mythological expectations. And a lot of it has to do with the sense of belief in a death being necessary for a rebirth. Like we now live in this time of mortality where you have the cycle of the seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall, and then over the cycles of life, cycles of seasons, and then birth, life, death, these types of cycles. That's not the world that I come out of, and it's not the world that we are moving into as we ascend. We totally redefine what is death and what is the continuum of continuity of consciousness. How do you define self over, across, and encompassing multiple parallel and concurrent lives, a la the movie or book Cloud Atlas, which teaches multiple parallel narrative stories that are going on in these people's lives at the same time. That's you. That's you, everybody. That you are not just one person. You are not just Trish or Aaron or Angela or Charlie B. You are all of those people, and you are also a multiple array, just like that drawing. Do I have my drawing here? My drawing. Yeah, I don't have my drawing. But you know that drawing that I show all the time of the chakra. I should just get it instead of fiddling around. Get the drawing, show it to people. Just let me fiddle, let me do it. It's right here. because I have everything super organized. I just have to get it. Hold on. Now we'll get it for you. Telepathic. Just want to beam it to you directly telepathically. That's why I'm sometimes like, oh, I have to get the screen share. This right here, your central persona might be Aaron or Charlie B or Trish. And then look at all these radiating sub personas that are other people, faceted facets of the crystal, fractal, fragmentary refractions of self. And that is who and what we are. And this also can be exemplified by the teaching of Indra's pearls, multiple lattice work system of reflective center points or epicenters, each one of which is an epicenter, each one of which reflects the other epicenter. You are all epicenters of reality, and you all reflect each other as epicenters of reality. I am you, and you are me. John Lennon said, we are one together. Come together, singing a song in class and being silly. That happens sometimes. Deep stuff, and then I sing, lighthearted songs. The multiplicity of your consciousness in various different forms reflecting into each other, just like what I shared in the whiteboard over here. All of these different, let me grab my pen, different ascension timelines, back and forth here, back and forth here, back and forth here, back and forth here, all of these oscillations and reflections and refractions. Now I'm going to do it with my hands in the giant crystalline structure of what consciousness is. You have all of these different back and forth, up and down, in and out, side to side, very similar to the actions of the flying rainbow lasagna when it is active as a genetic restructuring tool. So you already have this amazing, it's like a breathing, in and out, side to side, and these are all lattice work of Indra's pearls, multiple epicenters, non-pyramidal hierarchy. Pyramid hierarchy has one guy at the top and then the rest of the peasants at the bottom. But this is a non-hierarchical, non-pyramid shaped, non-hierarchical lattice work or crystalline structure where every single one of these nodes is an epicenter. And that is also exemplified in the flying rainbow lasagna, where I'm not the only flying rainbow lasagna. There are many nodes of unpredictability that are all radiating these new possibilities and these new capacities that are changing and transforming and rereading the time field. And why is that? It's a stronger system. If you have more than just one guy at the top, and then everybody else is like, we listen to you, tell us what to do. If every single person is innately self-directed, it is a stronger system than if you just have one at the top. Because why? Because if you have just one at the top and you get rid of that one at the top, then like, you are out of luck. Let me read, while this is still relevant because my eyes are being caught by the chat. Aaron says, digestion is a wonderful macro-micro fractal. Just as our tiny citizens in our microbiome, I love how you call them citizens, make matter bioavailable for us, the microbes in healthy soil make minerals bioavailable for the roots, yes, I'm cheering, of plants to take up for use for nutrition. And in turn, the plants excrete sugars from their roots for those beneficial bacteria to keep doing their thing nearby. Mutually beneficial connections keep this miracle of life going. Beautiful, so well said, so well written. Thank you. And thank you for your thoughtful presence here. And excellent, beautiful point. We have microbes in our tummy, your microbiome. Healthy soil also has microbes in it. I didn't know anything about this until I started gardening seriously when I moved to Northern California and started my CBD garden. And that was when I had to learn that in order to have healthy plants, you have to have healthy soil. And in order to have healthy soil, you need to have healthy balance of microbes that release the nutrients. So for example, if you have nitrogen in the soil, or potassium in the soil, sometimes it can be not bioavailable. The plants have roots. They're in the soil. The food is in the soil, but the plants aren't thriving. Why? Because sometimes if it's too cold, the microbes aren't, hold on a second because my dog is going to bark. If you have a cold season and the microbes aren't active in the soil, you can have tons of soil nutrients, but plants aren't thriving because why? Because the microbes are not active enough to be able to make available the nitrogen, the potassium. So sometimes if you're like, why is my house plant not growing? Is it on a cold windowsill? You need to put it someplace warmer or put it on a heat mat. Or other aspects of the imbalance of microbiome in soil. And also, if you want your plants to be healthy and not, if you don't want to have to spray a bunch of pesticides on their leaves, because I do purely organic gardening, what you do is you spray the entire compost tea, essentially, a brew of microbes that you put into a sprayer that you spray on a plant, and then you are able to keep the plants healthy and alive by covering their outer skin and outer membranes with a layer of positive microbes. So all of this is the partnership that you have between yourself as a macroscopic organism and the microbial level. And that is evident in you and your microbes, and also when you're a farmer or gardener, in your plants growing in the soil also. Beautiful mutualist partnership between very, very small organisms and very, very large organisms. And so, yeah, I'm very big on organic gardening, healthy microbes, and all the things that you can do in order to keep that, as opposed to chemical fertilizers and chemical pesticides, all of which are the literal antithesis of what you want to do in your garden, and the literal antithesis of what you want to do in your body. So these are just all the things that I learned. I didn't come here with this knowledge. I did not, just like I didn't come here with the knowledge of knowing about how to eat and digest food in the body. This has totally been an educational experience for me. I had to learn about microbes. I had to learn about the balance between these different scales of life and of being. And that also gave me a greater appreciation. I was like, wow, this world really is a miracle. I was like, wow. So let us all celebrate. You're driving down the road. Photosynthesis is a miracle. You're growing your garden in order for these tomatoes or potatoes or whatever it is that you're growing there to create nourishment and nutrients for you to mash up with your mouth crystals. Miracles happen. And once you mash them up with your mouth crystals and put them in here, miracles continue to happen. This is all about not being like, my shoulders are down, like, why did our planet get invaded? Now we have to eat food. Because I think that there is some of that that's going on. There is some of that going on in the sense of people who are like, I want to be a light eater. I want to be a pranic breath eater and never have to eat again. I think that that is the culmination of our journey. Aha. Person's coming back in. Hold on a second. That is definitely something to be recognized and celebrated. And also, please accept and celebrate where you are in this moment in terms of moving, being a food eater, eating solid foods, and moving on your ascension journey towards being an ephemeral being who is supported fully on just pure light and pure breath and nothing other than that. Because when you are eating your physicality food, what you are doing is being a taste bud on the tongue of God. That you are here, like I said last week, photons are feelers. You are a collection of photons. You are here as consciousness, gathering consciousness, information, and experience to broadcast it as a live stream. I even recorded this lesson before we had the word live stream. So I would say as a live broadcast, you are on channel U. You get it? But this is before YouTube was big. So that you're on channel U and you are broadcasting back to the sun, not only to the sun, but the entire stellar network array of light beings. That what you are experiencing here goes back to the sun and the stars, because everything that you have here in terms of your presence and your consciousness comes from the stars. It is all borrowed light. It is all on loan. It is all here, hugging my dog down here, for the purpose of learning, education, and growth, and to be able to send back these wonderful experiences. So this is where I use the example rather of the fried chicken at my friend's holiday party. Vegans, close your ears, because I still really like this memory. And the reason why I like it is because I don't usually eat fried chicken, and my friends had this holiday party. First of all, it was a beautiful scene. I'll set the scene for you, because we eat more than just the food. We eat the environment that we're in. So imagine cold and snowy outside, warm and toasty inside, got the wood fire going, house full of friendly people, good smells inside, banquet table full of food, and then the most amazing pile of fried chicken. And these people had done like the buttermilk soaking overnight, and they fried it in like bacon lard, like they did it up right. And it was the juiciest, most perfectly crispy, most perfectly piece of fried chicken. And I was sitting there in their kitchen eating it, and I was like, oh no, nobody talk to me, nobody interrupt me, nobody do anything right now, because all I want to do is imprint upon with my mouth crystals. What does this feel like as I'm eating it? The amazing tastes, they put a lot of love into it. The preparation is an alchemical transformation. When you cook for someone else, you are absolutely putting love into the food. It is a transformative process that then also helps to unlock, when I say magically, alchemically, the possibilities of consciousness that are contained within that food, and you absolutely are making it available to others. So cooking for someone else, food is love, and cooking food, preparing it for someone else, is also a very profound activity of love. And I was just imprinting upon all of the love that was in there and bringing it inside of me. Imprinting on the love that was put into the preparation of the food, the physical substances of the food itself, and the actual miracle and love of being alive and having the opportunity to really be here and eat food. So I want all of us in this moment, like love is really acceptance. The love tone is a tone of equal giving and receiving in the world. The sun, God's presence, gives us this life, gives us this light, gives us this consciousness, gives us this capacity to feel and sense and be. And then we also give back in the sense of giving back our experience. This is what it feels like to be me. This is what it feels like to be embodied here. This is what it feels like to eat this divine gift called food. That level of gratitude is absolutely so essential in terms of being here in this moment, as opposed to saying like, oh, I don't like having to eat food, I'm pouting, I don't like what's going on, I wish I could just Calgon take me away, fly off into higher dimensional reality, never have to do this again. Like some people are that way when they're like making their food, they're like, oh, I hate cooking and it's such a chore, I have to clean up the dishes afterwards. Like, no. And also shopping and gathering food, all of it. Please do it as a practice, as a celebration of the miracle of being here and of being alive and of having the gift of food and of having access to nutrients that will help you to transcend and ascend and get to your destination or your goal faster, more effectively. And also you will embody clearer recordings, because what you're really doing, again, spoiler alert, you are the sun. You are God presence. You are right now here individuated and having this experience, and you will return to yourself with the memories and recorded experiences of being here. You're feeding yourself in the future. So when you are biting into that sandwich or biting into the textures of the food that you're eating and transmitting it with your mouth crystals and saying, here's the story of the food that I'm eating right now, you're really feeding a version of yourself in the future when you no longer have a dense physicality body. You no longer have this presence or this anchor here in this level of reality. You're in a different level of reality, and you celebrate the time that you spent here in this level of reality. And you say, I remember what that felt like, and I remember what I did, and here's a recording of it. We are moving into the level of reality where we are beyond physical eating of food, but that doesn't mean that it's a boring vanilla reality. Because I think maybe when you think about having the umbilicus feed you food, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, like I just float here and, I don't taste anything and nutrients just come into me. It's not like the same as a banquet of food. And then I have these tastes and sensations and pleasures. So I want to affirm to you and comfort you that the time beyond physical food eating is not a time that is without pleasure. It is a time of pleasure. To speak in positives, it is a time of great pleasure. And part of the pleasure is mind-to-mind communication, being a chef of the mind. There will come a time, please imprint on this moment as you're listening to my videos, when we will meet in a purely telepathic society, and I will be able to transmit to you all the tastes and textures and nutrients and amazing experience of the fried chicken at that holiday party. Vegans, close your ears. But you know something, maybe you might be open to it, because what really matters is the beauty of the moment and of the experience, not any kind of prohibitions in terms of what you are or are not allowed to eat in terms of a sense of moralism. So, because when you really get into abstract anthropological interpretations. Like, there's my little dog, and she might be like, this dog bone is the greatest. Like, I can't wait to translate to you and transmit to you how great this dog bone tastes. And you're like, ew, a dog bone. Like, yes, in your present human form, you would not find that palatable. But to her, she's like, oh, a dog bone. It was the best thing I ever ate, or whatever. Something that dogs really like that you would never eat. One time my dog ate a fermented gopher, but we won't go into that. But you can imagine the greatest delicacy of being a dog, greatest dog food, but to them, that's something really great. So chef of the mind. Each one of us is here having a unique biomorphic experience, and you are creating these broadcasts that go back to the sun, and also a catalog of experiences. And food is a big part of that catalog of experience. So when you're here, celebrate being here, celebrate food, tastes, textures, and availability, be in gratitude, and make these recordings be a taste bud on the tongue of God by focusing completely. This goes into my distinction between conscious death and unconscious death, and what it is like to be here at different levels of consciousness when you are embodied. This has to do with your crown chakra. This has to do with the genetic degradation. This has to do with your chakras becoming slightly askew. So let's say genetic modification happens and these chakras start to wobble, including this one up here. My head is wibbly wobbly. Now, instead of having like a perfect connection where I'm totally connected to the source and to the divine consciousness, and I hear everything and send back everything that I'm receiving, maybe I'm over to the side. Maybe I only get like a tiny little amount. So it might be that there's a low frame rate, if you know what I mean, in terms of video, low quality video, or it might be like 5 seconds, then there's blank, 5 seconds, and there's blank, 5 seconds, and there's blank. Or it might be something like macular degeneration, where there's just not a very clear picture. Like the picture is steady, you can see what's going on, but maybe you have not a very steady picture, not very bright colors, not very sharp edges. It can be any of these things that are a diminishment of the signal in terms of receiving and of sending. This goes back to last week's teaching of being a photonic sensory organ of the sun and the stars, and sometimes being able to receive effectively but not send back effectively, and different levels of reception. So all of us are receiving some amount of life force energy in order to stay alive. We receive an enormous amount of life force energy while gestating in the womb, because you need to have that strong imprint to be able to form a body. Then once people are born, that first year, you've got your fontanelle open, it's your crown chakra, to open portals to the divine are open for that first year. This is why it is so amazing to be in childcare, to be a parent, a grandparent, a person who takes care of babies, care for your babysitting, caring for your neighbor's babies. Holding a little 1-year-old infant is literally holding a portal to the divine. They still have their beautiful crown chakra open. They are still developing the ego boundaries. They're still very connected to the ocean of consciousness. You definitely, like, you can call them battery packs. Like, you get like a beautiful uplift by being with them. And sometimes a baby smile can be incredibly uplifting to you, because they're still like, I'm from heaven. They're like, I'm from heaven. I'm still learning what it's like to be here on earth. And you're like, I've been here for a while. I kind of forget a little bit what it feels like to be from heaven. So they can be such wonderful reminders of that heavenly. When I say heavenly, I literally mean heavens, the stars, the world of pure light. Like, I am a literalist in that sense, not necessarily a place with white robes and angel wings. That is a literary allusion, but I'm talking about a literalism in the sense of being in the heavens. That is where you go and you become a light being. And that is also where I come from. Aaron says, oh, Angela was agreeing, it is truly miraculous, the idea of eating, food, microbes, and digestion and photosynthesis. Aaron says, again, variation of a vegan here, living in Southeast USA. I still smile at the fried chicken, memories of childhood, and could practically taste and smell your holiday experience. I most certainly still relate. Thank you for that. I'm so pleased that you are not offended or in otherwise find it distasteful to hear about my descriptions of fried chicken, because I also feel that that is a way of honoring those substances or organisms that I've eaten over the time. Like, if I'm going to eat it, I'm going to remember it. They did not die in vain. I'm going to remember the beautiful moment that I had and all those tastes and textures, and then yes, be able to share that with others. And it can be anything that are these really beautiful moments of like cookout on the beach, you know, whatever is the thing, like you really imprint upon it. And, you know, like when you have that memory, like even your salivary glands kind of go, you're like, oh, I remember what that felt like and tasted like. It was so amazing. It's part of the joy of being alive. And again, we will meet in a purely telepathic realm where I will feed you as a chef of the mind with some of the fried chicken that I have eaten. And then I totally look forward to you feeding me as a chef of the mind with the beautiful meals that you have eaten. And it can be something like when you would sit down to a family meal, or it could be that maybe you traveled someplace and ate something exotic and wonderful, or it could be eating whatever, a crepe that is spread with Nutella outside of the Eiffel Tower when you were in France, whatever was like a significant, and you're like, oh, like I really, because it's being present in the moment. The genetic modification, what has taken us away from our divine creator self and from our true ascension selves, is basically not being focused on the moment now. Everything, there are so many wonderful good teachers in the world that remind us of the power of the moment now. So I am one voice of many reminding you about what is mindfulness or meditation, or how to focus and distill everything that you are, that's peripheral around the edges or smeared across time, into this moment now. That's why I was like, nobody talked to me like I'm eating this fried chicken. I'm like, I am focusing the everythingness of my being on this moment. Chomp, chomp, chomp. That is what we really want to do ideally with every moment. But that's a high jump expectation to get people to jump over. So really, like, I try to focus that when I'm eating my food. I try to focus that when I'm like doing certain activities, definitely when I'm in my music. And there are moments when I'm in my music when I feel it reverberating across time. Like I remember putting in the trombones of this the song Birth of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and I felt time tunnels. I'm like, dun, 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 and I felt it across time, and I'm like, yes, like I'm aligning with all these timelines and making it sound exactly the way it's supposed to sound. Sometimes you do that and you feel like, yes, I'm totally embedded within the moment. It is profound to do that. I think a lot of the times people protect themselves by kind of dispersing their consciousness across time and being like, yeah, like I'm kind of listening, I'm kind of paying attention, I'm not really paying attention, I have all these other things on my mind, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. And because something that's really powerful and profound, sometimes people have that experience when they take a psychedelic. It opens these doorways, these pathways. It creates this mind state of supreme focus in the moment now. Some people achieve it through meditation practices. In whatever way it happens, it can be almost intimidating because everything that's going on really matters. You're like, wow, like I can see the texture of the walls. I can see the texture of my skin. I can feel the microbes. The air is humming. I can see every dust mote that is in the air. And also the sense of, like William Blake talks about, seeing heaven in a grain of sand and eternity in the moment now, in one moment now. That is the definition of time dilation, or the psychedelic experience, or this profound mental state that is achieved when you're completely focused. The needle of awareness plays on the record of your life right now, not dispersed over time, because you're like, wow, I really feel like I feel the socks on my feet, the elastic is too tight. Like you feel everything, and everything matters. So for many people, they use the dispersion technique of self-protection, where they're just kind of like thinking about all these different things so that you don't focus too much, because sometimes it can almost be too much. And then also when you're in those powerful moments of being focused on the now, you don't want to waste a thing. You want to be like, wow, life is a miracle. Everything is a miracle. Let's do something significant and powerful. And that's also what the quality of our existence was like in the antediluvian sophisticated world before the genetic degradation. Every moment remains a significant moment. No time was wasted time, or dispersed time, or diluted time, or frittered away time. Those are the peripheral realities around the edges of the time field. Every moment was spent in focus on that central core timeline, every moment being significant, every moment being an art piece, a la the work of Jose Arguelles, beautiful teacher, not on earth anymore. Time is art, is what he taught about from the ancient Mayan tradition of the Mayan calendar system. Time is art, meaning that each moment of your life has the potential to be a beautiful art masterpiece, or a layer, accumulated layer, photoshopping and making oil painting layers of the vision of you and who you are and what you are here to share and to experience, to the point where one would never sell one's time or commodify it. So this idea of like, I'll dig a ditch for you, pay me $10. That goes back to ancient Sumeria and the invention of commodification tokens. Like they used little clay pieces back then to be like, I'll give you a clay piece, dig a ditch for me, I'll give you a piece of clay. And it represents food. You get some barley with that piece of clay. That's currency. And now we use dollars. Dig a ditch for me, I'll give you $10, you can use it to get some food. This is all about domestication of human, taking human away from divine connection, taking human away from being fed with the divine presence, and commodifying time, which is basically, I'll pay you this amount of time to go slightly askew on your timelines. What are we doing now as Planetary Ascension? As you know, I will only ever speak about the negatives or disrupted aspects of our being. If I will also then speak about the empowerment, rectification, and healing of what we are to experience. So all of this speaks to the why. Why are we ascending? Why are we in the mud? Why are we down in the mud? Why are we rising up into ascension? What is this experience like? It is a refocusing of our consciousness and a reclaiming of our time away from the model of commodification. There are concurrent developments that happen as we do this refocusing of consciousness and awareness, one of which is away from food eating towards light eating or consciousness eating, pure consciousness, which is still something that is very valuable, but away from the matter of material world, of materiality. And then also away from the idea of someone else directing your time through the dangling carrot of dollar bills or tiny clay pieces in Sumeria. Like, I know you've got a divine plan for your life, but maybe I can subvert you. I will give you dollar bills or tiny pieces of clay, instead of being subverted in that way, to basically be able to say, I am on my central core timeline and I'm doing these activities because I have a divine mandate to do so. And then I know that I will also receive the resources to sustain me by being on that timeline that is my divine mandate. When I say this to you, again, I'm not telling you to stop eating food, throw your pots and pans out the window, immediately become a breatharian and quit your job and stop losing money. I am not saying all of those things, because to me, that is unloving, because to me, that is not recognizing that we are in a transitionary state. It is essential to love and accept with radical compassion and forgiveness who you are in the moment. Like I said, when I came here 20 years ago, I was like, I'm just going to eat nothing but light. Then I had to say, I have to practice forgiveness and compassion on myself, because you can't just eat light around here. Then I had to say, it was taking a long time for us to transition into being pure light eaters. During that time, I need to go to the grocery store and buy avocados because I'm hungry, like literally. This is how it goes. We will have food and eat physical food for the time that we need it to be able to make this transition into being pure light eaters. Please do not be like, I'm going to punch you in the face, you better ascend, stop eating avocados now. Please don't be that way. Please be celebratory and in recognition of the miracles of what we experience, and that the more that you are in that state of pure acceptance, the more that you move towards being a pure light eater again. There's not a pressure on yourself to do this, just like there's not a pressure on the mother to give birth, like, you better get that baby out now, you better get that baby out now. Like, that does not help. That does not help at all. Like, not that I have done birth, but if you look at birthing women, they do not do well if you're like, you better do this now. But they do very well if you set them up for success in the sense of creating a circumstance where they have the privacy, focus, time, support, and what they need to be able to be urgent and relaxed at the same time, which is what we are doing for ourselves in this planetary moment of birth. So what we are doing is saying, yes, we recognize that we have to change. The entire ship of consciousness of our planet is ascending, moving from a slanted angle into an alignment angle, reclaiming our potentials of who and what we were and what we were designed to be, a la the brochure of coming here. Like, this wasn't what I read in the brochure. Like, what the F? Where are we? What is going on? And I am here in solidarity to be like, yes, that is right. I'm not just going to be in some world of pure comfort and tell you like, oh, I see that things didn't go well according to the brochure. Like, oh, well, like, you know, just dust off my hands. Like, you'll figure it out. I'm like, no, I'm going to be here with you and we're going to figure this out together. And so what I do in my body through Flying Rainbow Lasagna is rectification and healing of the genetic modifications. This is how you do the Rubik's Cube of your body to return to or unlock those dormant potentials of being a light eater within the body. And it's not something that you do without context. This is big. So I talked about planet and plant, and being a true star traveler, you are not tied to the plants you grow on your planet. So you will not have to have a clank clank metal spaceship with like a hydroponic potato or farm or whatever, growing lettuces and spinach as you fly through space, because that would mean that you're still tied to plants and to the planet. Or bring freeze-dried plants with you. Like here's my extensive collection of freeze-dried spinach in tubes, and every day I eat a tube of spinach. No, you will be free in order to be able to make that journey. And you will also still require resources. So this is big. It's not like, oh, like F you resources, I don't need you anymore. It is more like a changing and a recalibration of what is the source of those resources. Our source of resources is supposed to be pure divinity, our divine connection, pure consciousness, and pure light. Remember all of my word games. Every time I say light, replace it with consciousness. Every time I say consciousness, replace it with light. So you still need a food. You still need to be sustained. You still are sustained. It's not like this sense of like, I am invulnerable, I need nothing, which is actually a trauma response. When you've been through trauma, a lot of people are like, that's it. Like, I just want to have a total shield of armor. I need no one. I need nothing from anyone. I'm completely self-reliant. F all of you. F everything. I'm getting out of here. Not like that at all. It is still a sense of being reliant, because the interconnectivity of the network of light is similar to the beautiful talk that we just had in the chat about the interconnectivity of the macro biological world and the microbiological world. You are in a community of organisms. In the physicality realm, you're in a community that is, mutualistic, macro and micro, helping each other and helping to create food and digest food. In the world of pure light, you are in community. When you are a coherent light being, when you are an ascended master, it's not just like, F you world, I generate my own light now. You can all go suck it. I'm going to do my own thing. Of course, this is me being facetious and similar to my, I'm looking out for number one type of, exaggerations. I do this to be lighthearted, but it really is the sense of you still need food. You are still interactive and interdependent with aspects of self on the level of pure light. So the sun still sends out pure light, pure consciousness, probabilities and possibilities that you absorb and digest and ingest. You do not need the intermediary, though, of a leaf with chlorophyll to catch that light and turn it into a salad for you to eat, or potato, or a chicken, or an egg, or whatever it is. You just do it directly. You get it? So it's not like, F you, light, I don't need you anymore, suck it. You're like, wow, light, I still need you. Sun, God, I still need you. And I'm still a part of you. You just have fewer intermediaries. Similarly, God and the sun and the stars and light itself needs you. This is not about being like, F you, person, F you, individual, I don't need you. It's not like that at all. All of this reascending and refocusing and returning, retuning, carving out the trueness, the true nature of you until you're on that central core timeline is really a return to unity consciousness, the sense of everything being self. It's all a self, spoiler alert, it's all a self-portrait. Spoiler alert, it's all you. Spoiler alert, you need you. You need self. Self needs self. The sun sends out photonic feelers and needs to have that energy reflected back and be able to sense what is going on out there. We are not just in partnership with the sun and the stars and light. We are the sun and the stars and light. We are that. Our being, our existence is doing our job. When you are being and existing, you are doing your job in your partnership with pure light, pure consciousness, the source, which is you emanating into reality as experiencer, and then the return journey of you as experiencer, reflecting back all that you are and all that you encompass and embody back to self state. The idea of that original photon coming from the emitter, coming out into the world, embroidering the world and returning back. You embroider the world with these loops of consciousness and loops of experience. And there's causality, which is this quantum word that means a thing happens because another thing made it happen. So this one causality loop here makes this other thing happen, makes this loop here. It is an incredibly beautiful, complex interlocking of time loops, interlocking of interdependent consciousness states and journeys. It is so miraculous. It's as miraculous as compost tea and keeping my plants healthy by spraying them with lactobacillus bacterium. It's an amazing journey, and it's an amazingly complex system. And all of this is the natural world. Hold on a moment. I need to get my electrolyte water. Hold on a moment. I'm looking at my notes, and one of the main things that I wanted to emphasize was the genetic degradation affected our language centers. It affected the yellow level of the solar plexus a lot. It affected a lot of what is our moment-to-moment cognitive mental state, which when we are children and we are coming here, we learn language and it becomes our filter for interacting with the world and our filter for talking to ourselves or articulating our own cognitive abilities and self-state inside. The constant internal verbal dialogue is what has made humans go askew instead of being perfectly in alignment and completely focused in the moment now. Meditation, meaning pressing the big red button, press the off button, the pause button. Like iPods don't have an off button, they just have a pause. Press pause on the constantly running playlist of your mental mouth mind. Press pause, do the practice of being a meditator. I'm a very active person, in case you guys can't imagine. Very active, and I actually find it a little bit difficult to just sit still. So throughout my day, I find active forms of meditation. Walking is good, left, right, left, right. It's all about balancing the hemispheres of the brain, left, right, left, right. I do a lot with dance. Also going into an egoless or transcending the ego state and transcending verbalization by putting on my music and going into dance or any kind of cardio activity, playing music, and also a lot of the artwork that I do. And I do these things to be able to have an active focus that brings me into what is also known in this world as the flow state of time flowing without impediment, as a perpetual motion machine, without limitation, without siphoning off of energy. I see your little cat is here as part of our lecture. It's so beautiful, Aaron. We love kitty cats and the dogs and their energy. The thing that happened when our genetic code was invaded or degraded was something came into our natural, pristine human form and intervened within our own mind, with our own divine connection. And those are all these pesky occupiers of the interstices. So this is big. And I talked about this in a little brief 5-minute snippet clarification that I uploaded to YouTube last week, because sometimes I watch my own lectures. And I do that in order to kind of like sit back as if I am the perceiver, not the emanator, and be like, okay, like what does this sound like? And what is the level of truthfulness, like to kind of get it the way that other people are seeing it from the viewpoint of how other people are seeing it. And so I was sitting there listening to my lecture with my headphones on, and I got a really clear insight of not everything that is on the interstices is you. These interstices, this membrane between world that is similar to the meniscus or the top layer of a glass of water, slightly thickened layer, a membrane between worlds. That place, this membrane between worlds, first of all, is meant to be a perfectly clear conduit, as I drew in the whiteboard, energy circulating around in these directions or in beautiful figure 8 directions like this. No one camped out. No one living in an encampment who's not supposed to be there, who's not a rent-paying occupant of your body. This has everything to do with the definition of who you are and who you are not. The invaders that came into our world, into our human genetic code, into our planetary structure in ancient amount of time ago, or a parallel concurrent amount of time ago that is still going on, that we're still fighting against in the realm where we are immortal. And you got plunged into this dream or pocket world of what it is like to be mortal. Believe me, every single one of you that's watching this video, that's here in this class, you all have concurrent selves in the antediluvian world. It's not ancient, it's parallel to your current experience. When you are there, you are an immortal god or goddess with a perfect body that has no disease, no chronological aging, a state of total vitality and strength. You are just exactly like the Greek and Roman gods and goddesses. And you are immortal in the sense of not dying the physical death of mortality that we know about, and not requiring the same levels of food and protection from the elements that we require here. But that doesn't mean that you're invulnerable. It does mean, like I said, you're sustained by light. So here are the 3 levels of development. This is very simplified levels of development of what consciousness journey was like before the degradation of the human genome. Initially, when you are embodied, this is according to the brochure, you will incarnate. This is what you will experience. First, you will experience the level of being wherein your feet actually walk on the earth. You are like a battery that has the anode and the cathode. Your feet touch the earth and your head connects through the crown to the sun and the stars and the divine presence, the source that emanated you. You stay connected at those 2 points, and you receive energy both from the top down, from the higher dimensional, less dense realms in sustaining you. Pure light sustains you, and also energy comes up from the planetary presence, but not potatoes. You don't take the beautiful gardens and potatoes that we grow and mash them up with your mouth crystals. That is not how we ate. We ate by listening and by absorbing. Got it? We ate in a way that did not degrade the originator of the substance that we are eating. So if I play some music, you are ingesting that food right now, but you're not eating the keys of my piano. If you ate the keys of my piano, I could only play that for you once, and then you would eat the keys of the piano and it would be gone, and I wouldn't be able to play it for you again. But when you eat the music, you're eating the harmonic frequency emission that is sustaining you, and it is endless, because I can play this song all the time and you can keep on eating it. That's similar to what happens with a crystal. This crystal is emitting a beautiful music, and I'm eating and ingesting the beautiful vibratory music from this crystal, but the crystal remains. That's very different than if I took the crystal and like chomp, 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 mashed it up and put it inside of me. That is a very, very different level of sustaining the body. That's more like the level of a steam engine. How does the steam engine work? You take a bunch of coal, you throw it into the cauldron, the furnace burns it up and it releases kinetic energy, and pistons move, pistons move. That is a very, very different level of sustenance that comes from the destruction or unmaking of matter. You're unlocking the stuff that's in the matter, but you're destroying the matter in its experience. When we are in the antediluvian sophisticated world, we are sustained by pure vibration. So what did that look like? We had extensive, beautiful gardens. Our whole entire planet was and is a garden, cultivated to be able to have these different growing presences. Every plant emits a song, and you're just in that garden absorbing the nourishment of being surrounded by the song of the planet and by the song of the other organisms and species that are sustained in this way. And it is my understanding that there is a creature called Sasquatch that is sustained in this way. Sasquatch does not actually eat like, fish out of the river or something like that. People imagine that they do, but they don't. They eat consciousness, they eat pure frequency. They are sustained in that way, and they also travel interdimensionally, and also you sustain others. When you come from that pure frequency realm, you eat music and you emit a song that sustains others. So some of what Sasquatch's job or purpose or mission is going around on these different interdimensional voyages and emitting frequencies that sustain others. This is mutualism. This is love. This is sending and receiving. So in the time of ancient Atlantis, we would both send out frequency and receive frequency. We would sustain one another with our voices. Love, beautiful singing. We would also sustain one another with the frequencies that we send out. We would sustain the organisms that are around us by helping to cultivate and create them. And we would go through all of these wonderful life adventures that basically help you to accrete more and more light. As you breathe in more and more light and have more and more experiences and emotional experiences come into you, it's like you get clothed with more light, stronger and stronger presence of your light body, until at a certain point, you don't have to be touching the ground anymore. This is what ascension was in that time. Ascension was a type of transformative pilgrimage, the moment of ascension, where let's say if you lived for 500 years, that would be a short life back then, but just say 500 years. Your life touched a lot of lives. And as you are climbing up this sacred mountain, you get to have a retrospective and you meet again all of these lives that you touched. You might meet someone and they would be like, you said something to me at this or that time that absolutely informed and uplifted me. Light comes to you. Your true light body and your true face is built from that truthfulness of light. You might meet someone that you had a conflict with. They might say something like, you said something and it made me feel this, and then I had to learn this, and then I learned this, and then we both grew together. Light comes to you, the resolution of conflicts. It's not always about like everything was perfect. Sometimes there was moderate conflict. Sometimes it was an organism that you sustained. Hey, you gave water to me, I'm a plant, and you helped keep me alive, and then I gave you this beautiful song. Or also aromas, songs, aromas, the feeling state that does not require the actual physical ingestion, chomping down on the things that we're actually eating. You bring it into yourself in a different, more subtle way. And you would climb up this mountain, receiving back all of the goodness, all of the love that you sent out over 500 years, kind of similar to the sun sending out all these photonic feelers and then like fishing line, drawing them all back in, but returning with all this wonderful perspective. Draw back in all of this wonderful perspective from the information and energy and heartfelt, the love that you have sent out over your existence. And as you re-encounter all of these lives that you have touched, you have your light body strengthened, it becomes coherent. And by the time you reach the top of the mountain, you're like, I am ready to no longer have my feet touch the ground. I'm able to be sustained by the memory of the fried chicken, the memory or the recorded experience of all the lives that I've touched. And now I become a part of the floating, hovering society. That's ascension, that there's those who walk on the ground, then there's those who exist as a floating collective, like a city in the sky. But there's not a city with infrastructure like roads. The city is made of you and your light bodies. And all of these beautiful, coherent light bodies that are like, they're like bejeweled, but nobody's wearing clothes. But it is not a sexualized nudity, it is just a purity. You have to understand this, because you don't need clothes when you're at that level. You know, the idea of wearing a piece of cloth is like, how silly and foolish. Like, you would not wear a piece of cloth. Your body is made of pure light and it's the most beautiful, amazing thing in the world. But this is non-sexualized nudity, because I have to tell people about that, because you're here in this world that is the world that has the myth of Adam and Eve, where everyone thinks like, oh, like, we better put on a little something because I don't want anybody looking at me around here. So again, I had to learn and be acculturated to all of that. But the place where I come from is a place that is a floating collective of light bodies, where everybody kind of makes a harmonic sound as they're flying through time space. Whoosh, wah, whoosh, wah, like I'm flying to you and then you catch me, and then I'm flying to you and flying over here, and then with my keyboard here, I'm flying to you, and we're like this amazing interplay, loving interplay of all these organisms and vectors and consciousnesses that are all fueled by the accreted light experiences that happened when you were actually on the ground. But when you do that, you still have to be connected to the sun. So that's why you go around the planet, because you have to chase the sun. Because if you're here and the sun goes around and it's nighttime, then you go down. You have to be connected to the sun the whole time. So you're this floating collective, the city in the sky, and you are rotating around the whole entire structure of the world, staying connected to the sun the whole time. And when people ascended, they did not, it was not like, oh, boohoo, like when you die and you cry. You're like, yes, this person ascended. And first of all, I still see them there flying at that incredible level of being, and the song that they're making with the whooshing back and forth is literally what writes the story for the people that's on the ground. This collective of coherent light beings and their generative harmonic structure and everything that they're doing in conjunction with being connected to the sun writes the story for the people that are on the ground. And then the people that are on the ground are helped and uplifted by this activity. The graduating class then ascends and becomes these people up here, and these people that are up here move on to the third level, which is kapow. You're not just connected only, you're not connected to this planet, and you're not connected only to this sun star. You get connected to all the stars. And that's what the Aurora Collective is, that we're at that level of the third level of transformation, where we eat pure light, we sustain each other in this coherent love force field. We have accreted enough light through our multiple experiences that we are able to be free from plants, planet, and the interpretive structure of chlorophyll. And we are able to travel on the system of neurology that is the stars as a neural impulse from one star system to another star system, like solar system to solar system or galaxy to galaxy, traveling around up there. So still requiring light. Again, not like my silly facetious voice of like, F you, I need nothing. I'm armored against everything and I need no one and nothing. And I'm, invulnerable. Not like that at all. Actually vulnerable. We need light and we need each other. We are sustained by each other and we need each other. And guess what? We can't get rid of each other. Can't be like, that's it, you're out of the band. Like, suck it, get out of here. Be like, no, I need you. I need you and you need me. That I need you and you need me. We are complementary to one another. And that is a big part of mutual sustenance in this coherent light body. That is what my collective is. And we also need not only the sun star, but we need all of these different stars that are out there. And that now you can come to understand that if there is a difficulty on the layer of those who walk on the ground, that's not going to be a graduating class. That means no one's going to be here. And if there's no one's going to be here, then no one's going to be flying around up here. Problems on the ground translate to problems in the heavens. And I come from the heavens. There are problems and destabilizations up there because there are problems here because of the genetic modifications and diminishments that happen here. So I looped around and flying rainbow lasagna here in order to help perform rectification events that will help everyone here to be able to get in alignment with what they need to do and to be able to ascend, to be able to reclaim or re-embody that level of being perfectly in tune and become coherent light beings, because we have to have graduating classes, because we have to keep this interdependent, intercommunicative light body cycle of light going. And that is also part of what the living time field is, that we keep the time field alive. Light and time are connected as living consciousness presences, and that this is all a great caretakership. So everything that you learn at these different layers, levels of being, like when you walk on the earth, you learn about how important it is to be a caretaker for other organisms and for a garden, how you give to them, they give to you, mutualism. Each layer has a lesson that must be embodied in order to graduate, to transcend. And then you get to the next layer, and then you learn about how important it is to have this coherency. I give to you, you give to me, making the song. We have to keep singing it together. If we don't keep singing it together, we plunge downward. We got to keep going, guys. And that's why I need you and you need me. And it is that's another layer and lesson, but again, dependent upon light. And then essentially at the next layer, dependent upon the entirety of the thought structure, maintaining all of this. So this is deep stuff. And this absolutely relates to your day-to-day, moment-to-moment experience. Let me drink. And everything that you're going on is going on for you in your individual life and in your planet right now. So you have to be accepting. You're moving from a denser level of food eating, food that is materialistic, solidified light, into non-materialistic, pure light. You're moving from a level of being connected to this planet only into being incrementally free from just this planet or this world or this realm or layer of reality, freer to circulate into other layers of reality. And also you must love and accept with blazing compassion where you are on your journey. You can't be like, we need to ascend by next Tuesday. Like, get going, guys. Birth does not happen that way. Ascension does not happen that way. Ascension is a beautiful unfoldment. However, I say this all the time, like that's not what it has felt like for the past couple of years. It's felt like you're very much under duress and under attack. And what's supposed to be a beautiful unfoldment and have a beautiful quality of experience has felt very not only chaotic, but filled with a lot of suffering and a lot of turmoil, as there are forces of inhibition or darkness that have attempted to stop us or delay this inevitable activity or siphon energy off of it. And those beings have been attempting to maintain their own status quo reality. Like, oh, like if we can, they get high on your stash, is what I'm trying to say. Like energy is flowing to you that's supposed to feed your ascension, but they're siphoning it off for them, just for them to be able to stay at kind of a minimal existence, just the pooties. So I'm almost at the end of this teaching, but I'm very happy that I focused most of my mental and verbal energy on the ascension process, as opposed to focusing a lot of verbal energy on the pooties, because I don't want to continually give life to them, but we need to resolve them somehow. The big teaching from my little 5-minute blurb is that they're not you. And this is about the validity of shadow work. Because shadow work is kind of like saying, like, this is me, and then here's my inverse shadow, and I have to learn about my inverse shadow in order to love me. There's some, rather pat or simplistic validity to that. But what you really need to know is, in the interstices, there are aspects of you, like, boom, I hit the membrane of death because I made a bunch of math calculations that weren't right as I was flying through time. I need to take responsibility for my mistakes. I need to rectify them. I need to change my trajectory and get back to here so I can go up the central core timeline. Valid. Hitting the membrane of death and then finding there's a whole civilization, loosely put, or culture of parasitic consciousnesses that have not only lived there for an eon or uncountable amount of time, but that they're the ones who created genetic modification in this world. They're the ones who invented death in this world. They've been trying to talk to you and say naughty things to you, like, go kill yourself, or like, go shoot a lot of heroin into your body, or whatever. They are the addictions. They are the negative thought forms that try to get people to self-destruct. They try to take you out of your life, which is circulating through the time field, and get you to splat like a bug on the windshield. You splat like a bug on the windshield, and then what they often do is take advantage of the dissolution process of your consciousness as your genetic sweater is unraveling. They're like, energy. I will sustain myself, my parasitic consciousness, on your energy as you are dissolving. And they make it much slower and more painful in terms of dissolving than it has to be, because your dissolving can be like fast. You're kaput, you're done, circulate back around to the beginning, try again. But they can be like, a slow dissolve human. I can really digest you over time. You can be the meatloaf sandwich that takes a long time to digest in my tummy. And they do that. And that is called torture. They torture consciousnesses. I'm sorry, this is dark stuff. I don't want to end on dark stuff. But what to do with these beings. So, and sometimes I would say that they need to be reprocessed. They need to go back to the central galactic sun. They need to go to entropy. So the validity of shadow work, discernment of what is you versus what is not you. So for example, generosity. I am a generous person. This is a personality characteristic I claim as me. The shadow inverse of generosity is to say that being too generous means you give too much to others and not enough to yourself. But the shadow inverse of you would not be something that is like, let's say, someone who steals from others. That's not the shadow inverse of generosity. That's a completely different characteristic. That's not you, being a violent parasite or something like that. That's not you. You don't have to claim that as self. So I think that there is a great caution in the way that shadow work is being presented to people, in the sense that, hey, if you want to get out of hell, just claim it. That's called coercion. That's when it's like you're so uncomfortable that you will say or do anything. Do you understand? It's how prisoners' willpower is broken down through thirst, hunger, torture, and sleeplessness, sleep deprivation. The willpower of prisoners is broken down until they will agree to anything. Just say you're a purple tomato and I'll let you go. I'm like, okay, fine, I'm a purple tomato. I'll sign your confession. I, Aurora, am a purple tomato. Just let me go. And that is what a lot of these occupiers in the interstices will do. They'll be like, you're trapped in hell. We're going to torture you, or we're going to eat you, or we're going to diminish you, or whatever. Just admit that you're us. Admit that you're violent, or that you're this, or that you're whatever. And be like, okay, fine, my coercion. I'm this, I'm that, I'm whatever. But that's not shadow work. That's just torture and coercion. So please, may there be a distinction between those two things. Sorry to go into darkness in what was essentially a very light teaching today. Resolving the, hold on a second. But planetary ascension as being the good dream of the planet, because we are in planetary ascension right now. So I've spoken about how our planet was invaded. We had a bunch of things that are negative thought forms that came into the interstices that are not original to us, that have actually imbalanced us, created death in this world, and now they need to be fixed and healed. So our planet was in some ways sequestered or quarantined from the rest of the world in terms of reality creation, because with that invasion, there was the invention of sadness and grief and death. We never used to die. Everybody used to ascend. It used to be a beautiful party with no grief. When death was invented and we went from the world of immortality into the world of mortality, all of a sudden we began to emit new lower vibration foods that are food for the scuttling crabs of reality. They're farmers, not scavengers anymore. Sadness, grief, fear. Now I'm going back to the past 20 years that I was referring to. For a lot of that time, humans programmed to expect eschaton or end of the world, a la the book of Revelation, were programmed to emit fear. They are afraid of the end. They are afraid of death. They are afraid of planetary death. They are afraid of sociocultural death. Some rivers of lava will flow and wash everything away, or maybe a giant tidal wave, or maybe a firestorm. There are allusions to what wiped out the dinosaurs, previous extinction events. People have been doing this for 20 years, to the point that there's now a rather wry attitude, like, oh, put it on my punch card. Another apocalypse survived. Like, I survived Y2K. That was supposed to wipe everything out. And I survived this, and December 21st, 2012. And then there was going to be this day when a comet was going to hit, and this day, and the nuclear missiles that was supposed to hit Hawaii, and it turned out to be just a test. It was merely a test broadcast of the emergency broadcast system. All of these things, these are all very genuine timeline rectification events that happened when you didn't die. And at a certain point, you're like, you know something? I don't think that we're all going to die in this big giant explosion that was expected. And that's because, congratulations, you have done the inner self-cultivation work of healing the internalized negative, fragmentary personality characteristics who are literally illusions, not shadow. Illusions are false light. To get out of the world of false light and into the world of true light. False light, false ideas, false thought forms that humans have been believing in and embroidering into reality. Ascension is very much about claiming your co-creative process with the divine consciousness in creating reality. You do not want to create a reality out of your fear. A lot of people have been afraid of destruction, on the eve of destruction, even to the point of the past 2 years of pandemic and some perceived viral contagion. I will just put that in quotes and not go any further. You can talk to me on Patreon if you want to hear more of my deeper held beliefs about this, but a perceived viral contagion, a la Stephen King's The Stand or something like that, that would wipe out many, many people and cause piles of rotting corpses. And this actually speaks to ancestral trauma of the Black Plague. That fiction that I just wrote about and that I just talked about, Stephen King's book and miniseries, and also the behavior of human society over the past 2 years, speaks to what happened during the time between the 1100s and the 1600s in Northern Europe, when the bubonic plague was rampant and would come in waves. And sometimes there would be whole villages or aspects of a city that would be wiped out due to viral contagion, and that there would be corpses stacked up in the street, you know, beginning to decompose, being wheelbarrowed away. We can think about Monty Python now. Bring out your dead, bring out your dead, bring out your dead. Get silly and lighthearted. Time for me to end the broadcast soon. But that speaks to ancestral trauma, that many people experienced that reverberative trauma back then. And that now when you hear and think about a possible viral contagion, you're like, oh no, I hope that 89% of the population doesn't die and then get stacked up in, you know, the streets. And then we have to somehow, you know, go on with our lives without, you know, the butcher or the baker or the candlestick maker. Like that's what used to happen. And you had to somehow be like, okay, no one knows how to bake bread anymore. Someone's going to have to figure it out. So in the miniseries, people would be like, okay, we don't know how to run power stations. Someone's going to have to figure it out. Everybody died. What are we going to do? Or zombie apocalypse, or any of these tropes, mental constructs that reverberate back. Good job on you. You have done enough inner healing and self-cultivation work to heal the ancestral trauma that you didn't actually have to be on that timeline. We do not have corpses stacked in the streets like firewood. This has not been the flu of 1918. We did not lose 89% of our professional workforce and have to somehow muddle through in order to keep human society going. We are not cooking over a campfire. We maintained our social and economic stability in order to make it to this moment. Good job. Good on you. Good job, everyone. What we are doing, yes, I know, celebrate incremental milestones of your healing. What we are doing is recognizing that we are moving out of that sequestration and disconnection from the rest of cosmic society as humanity is healed of these fears, because ascension is also recognizing and claiming the co-creative capacity of the mind, of recognizing I support you and you support me. I look at you with light and I shoot you with my mind. The best, I shoot you with light from my best mind. Didn't have the lyrics exactly right. I'm sending light out of my eyes to you. I see the true you. I put my light of my mind into you. I see you as your greatness. 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 And I see this human connective society as its greatness. And I see this planet as its greatness. That is what we are doing right now in the personal healing, personal ascension journey, and planetary healing and planetary ascension journey. Refinery of light, refinery of characteristics. This is more than just about saying, I'm eating my food and being mentally present. This is also refining yourself and your experience until you are living your greatest life, watching everyone around you live their greatest lives, watching all of humanity be uplifted and the ship of humanity be righted, going in the right direction to be able to ascend so that your planet doesn't have to be destroyed. Hooray. Hooray! Your planet doesn't have to be destroyed, everyone. Good news. I know I'm seeing beautiful things in the thumbnail. Triumph, triumphant moment. That is the posture of triumph. Your spine goes up, my shoulders go back. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be here on this timeline with you in this moment where you recognize that you do not have to be personally destroyed. Your society does not have to be destroyed and wiped away, and that you are able to maintain a different trajectory. The planet changes its trajectory. Metamorphosis, meaning state change, like going from water into steam. Metamorphosis, not an end to everything. Not extinction, not a cessation of all body processes, but a metamorphosis, a state change, becoming light eaters, returning to your true self, becoming non-materialistic, essentially. Let me just drink a little bit more. So Aurora, what does that look like? What will all this look like? At a certain point, you will no longer need to have physical matter. But before that point comes, the transitionary doorway or portal that you're going through is recognizing that physical matter is the externalization of your internal process. And we've had beautiful anecdotal sharings in this class. I don't know if it is Angel here today. No, but if Angel is here today, her anecdote of the wheelbarrow, she was like, I was working at the house and I needed a wheelbarrow and boom, it manifested itself behind me. Magical manifestations, the people that manifested cups of coffee or pounds of coffee, because we need our coffee in the morning. And for me, my particular proclivity of manifesting tiny screws in exactly the size that I need for a particular project. I don't have this bin anymore, but I used to have like a large gray work bin that had all these little compartments in it. And when I got a piece of hardware, like a screw, an Allen wrench, whatever, I would throw it in there in a very random, haphazard way. And then when I needed something, I would be like, oh, I need a screw that's this length and this diameter, and I'm blah, 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 blah. Let's see if I have one in the big gray bin. And I would just kind of open it up and just kind of fish around, be like, wow, like I just came up with the exact screw in the exact size that I need. Like, okay, this is not a random occurrence or even explicable according to the laws of probability and possibility. It is the understanding that that screw was manifested directly out of my mind. This is an anecdote, not meant to be an undue, egotistical sharing. All of these moments, these anecdotes are meant to nourish us towards the direction of self-belief. Well, if I can manifest tiny screws in the exact size that I need, or wheelbarrows, we can manifest larger things. We can manifest all that we need in terms of the physicality substances as emissions of our mind and our internal state to be able to sustain us. We begin to inhabit what we know consciously are mind-created realms. This room that I am in right now is a mind-created realm. My neighborhood is a mind-created realm. I remember coming here for the first time, having a friend show me around, and every time I went around a new corner, I was like, oh, a new mind-created realm. There's a lovely cafe there. There's, a cool, whatever, words fail me, like, because I live in this cool neighborhood where there's cool stuff everywhere. Like there's that shop, and it's all created out of the mind. So I don't look at physical reality as, yes, there was a place on the map and it was pre-existing and I went there, like the objective materialist state. I look at it in a quantum sense, that it was a series of uncollapsed waveforms and possibilities. And every time I went there, of course, with my friend, we were both collapsing waveforms into experienced reality. Turn a corner, a new level of reality unfolds in front of you, reflecting the externalization of your inner self state. And that's true all the time. I encourage all of you to do a little daily practice or weekly practice, like walk down a street you never walked down before. Be like, I am manifesting this experience. Before this, it was just a sea of potential. It was a quantum field. It was not an actual sidewalk. There were not actual rose bushes there. But I do this with my dog all the time. Let's walk down a street we've never walked down before. Turn the corner and look at something new. Wow, here's a whole new house. Here's a whole new this. Here's a whole new fence with a whole new climbing trails of roses. All of that didn't exist before. You're manifesting all of those things. Mind-created realms and mind-created food substances and mind-created clothing and dresses and mind-created other organisms and mind-created opportunities for health, healing, uplift, and co-creative, reverberative, reciprocal nourishment. Because I told you all about how I look at you as your greatness. You look back at me as my greatness too. I'm emitting a beautiful reality structure to you. I'm emitting a beautiful reality structure to you. And as we're doing this with each other, it is the beginning of that reverberation that then when you're no longer walking on the earth and you're floating up above it, you sustain each other harmonically. Wah, 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 looking at each other through the eyes of this greatness and seeing each other in the greatest potential. That is truly how we sustain each other, not by like, I'm going to eat your flesh and you're going to eat my flesh and I take a bite of you and take a bite of you. No, it is through the light that we emit through our eyes or through our mind or through our quantum observership and seeing the potential of another person. And I feed you and feed your greatness and see your greatness. I literally see you on this timeline. I see all of you as having the potential of being ascended masters or ascending masters. And I send out that nourishment to you. And then of course you reflect that back to me and we create an entire ecosystem of ascension, personal and planetary ascension, including the lactobacillus in my tummy, including the dolphins that are swimming in the ocean over there, including, I don't know where my dog is, wherever my dog is sleeping. My dog is ascending. Our animals are absolutely ascending. The planetary structure herself. All of this is moving into expansive mind-created realms. Big on this. We are the dream of the planet. Have been in a bad dream of scarcity and violence and rape or exploitation and victimhood. And that's literally what happened to the planet. The planet was sitting there like a big, gorgeous, voluptuous woman, and negative thought presences saw that and came along and were like, oh, I'm just going to come inside of you. I don't care if you want me to, and I don't care if you say no. It's a dark story. It's dark stuff that needs to be healed and rectified. The planet herself has trauma that needs to be healed. So we heal the trauma of the Black Plague, we heal the trauma of the planetary invasion. Because you know something? The planet has the right to exist as a beautiful, voluptuous presence, like the beautiful, nature is amazing. Like you look at flowers and you look at the voluptuousness of nature, like that's even just here in the minimal materialistic state. Like our planet before it was invaded was one big, giant, beautiful, voluptuous garden. The most amazing organisms, the most amazing flowers, the most amazing waters were gentle. So right here we have crashing waves, crash, crash, crash. Like if you stand out in the ocean, like you get crashed in the washing machine. All of the waves were beautiful. It was like the most amazing garden, the Garden of Eden, baby. It was the most beautiful garden, alluded to as the Garden of Eden. And then it was invaded by negative, disturbing thought presences that came unwanted, uninvited here. And that the planet has her own trauma, that a lot of this is about healing that trauma, healing that victimization or exploitation or survivorship, and the bad dream that came out of that, which is about scarcity and violence, becoming a materialistic world where there's not enough of this and I'm going to have to fight you for the last can of beans, into the good dream of the planet. A lot of that bad dream has been played out in each person's individual life as directly related to Earth and the planet's journey of victimhood and eventual empowerment. Healing of your own story, coming out of being a victim survivor and moving into empowerment. Our planet is kicking ass. You are kicking ass on an individual level, and our planetary structure is, kicking ass means becoming empowered. Remembering your true self, remembering, wait, the planet is a manifestation machine. If I can manifest, if I can make stuff, if I can make tiny screws in exactly the size that I need, I can make anything. I told you about my hair clip that I'm not sure how many times I've told this story, but I manifested a hair clip because I have long hair and I have to hold it back while I'm like, chopping my salad or whatever, so it doesn't get in my food. And I'm like, okay, I need something that looks like this. And I was looking on eBay, I was scrolling through, it should be like this, it should be like this, but not hold my hair too tight because you get a headache. And as I was thinking these parameters, I saw the exact thing that I wanted become real in front of my eyes. I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted. And I recognized in that moment that I was in a divine, direct, co-creative partnership between myself and the vibrating quantum field, the fifth dimension and higher, God's presence, the creator of all life substances and all consciousness and all light and all matter. And in that moment, I said, wait, I want more than just a hair clip. I want freedom. Seriously. So this is what you do. You're like, wait, I want more than just a tiny screw. I want more than just a wheelbarrow. I want freedom on an abstract level. And the answer is it's coming. It just takes a little bit of time for that to manifest. The earth is a manifestation machine, which has been either lusted after or held hostage by lower vibrational negative forces that would like to use the power of manifestation to control and dominate others. This is the invaders from Mars. The motivation of why humanity was enslaved and degraded in its DNA capabilities and connection to the above. This is why human consciousness was inhibited in your divine expression of consciousness. And Planetary Ascension has everything to do with you as an individual thinker and broadcaster of reality, changing the content of your broadcasting, changing the content of broadcasting grief, anger, sorrow, disempowerment, reverberative trauma into healing, self-empowerment, being able to manifest a better dream. So we are no longer saying, oh, I'm just manifesting an objective materialist reality with a limited amount of resources. I am manifesting an unlimited economy. That's big, because our whole economy is supposed to be about like, there's only this many bars of gold and there's only this many barrels of oil, and I'm going to keep them all in my bank vault. And then you're all going to pay me a lot of money because I have all the gold, or I have all the resources, or I have all the tiny pieces of clay from ancient Sumeria. This is different. This is when wealth or richness is determined based upon the power of your imagination. I have 1 million units of imagination power, and I can imagine whatever I need to and manifest whatever I need to. And that is what a truly wealthy person is. And you do not merely live in your own unicellular world looking out for number one. You are mutually, reciprocally, coherently responsible to others, where you are manifesting not just a hair clip for you, but the sustenance and positive contextual reality structure that sustains everyone else, because you got to have other people around you. You don't just float around as one little tiny speck of particle with nothing else around you, like the zeroth dimension. You float around with other aspects of self that you also wish to sustain. So this is the balance of sustaining self versus sustaining community. And everything that we've been learning here, these are the lessons of walking on the ground. I sustain myself, I sustain others. Balance of both. I give to myself, I eat for me, I also share food with others. I have self-care time, I have me time, I whatever, do an essential oil skincare on me, but then I also take time to care for others. This is balance, self versus community. You are in a love relationship with the sun when you are giving back an equal amount as it is giving out to sustain you, and you are giving back to the sun. I think I got all of this. And the pesky occupiers of the interstices being like emotional blockages that have been blockading our true connection as coherent light beings with the light that emanates us. What do? Be like, Pooties, I hate you. I stab you with a knife. Like, get away from me. You can do that. But then what happens is you end up being in an unspoken contract of dualistic struggle. I hate you, you hate me, we're an unhappy family, and we struggle together eternally, locked in an embrace that nobody likes. That's not what we want. I know I was being very silly. I think that was from like the Barney show. No, that's not what you're supposed to do at all. What you're supposed to do, and this again never means accepting or condoning the uncondonable behavior of rape or exploitation or violence or any of these things, but love is the solvent. Oxygen is the solvent, the unlocking the enzymes, decoding the emotional experiences of why, comprehending why was the planet invaded, where did these guys come from, what are they looking for, why are they eating my food, why are they stealing my stash, why are they getting high on my ascension energy stash? And the real answer is because they have become so far off their path. They don't even have their own chakras. Get it? Like when you get on the membrane of death, you're smeared on the edge of your own chakra. These guys are so effed, they don't even have their own chakras. They're smeared on the edge of your chakra, okay? And what they really need is to go to entropy. In my music mixing software, I have all these different volumes, volume up, volume down. Turn down the volume within your own chakra system on all of that which is not you. This is the real shadow work, discerning illusion and false light from the real aspects of yourself that are the negative, inverted, distorted aspects of who you really are. Turn down the volume on the invader's consciousness. Turn down the volume on that which has come to our planet that is not native to our planet at all, that cannot even be considered truly aspects of the human genome or your characteristics. This lesson, refinery of characteristics, as you are letting go of emotional ballast and clearing emotional stored blockages and energy, your chakra system is getting back into its natural alignment. There's like, a natural biofeedback loop that is returned. You're sending those energy features, those negative thought presences into a stillness. When I talk about entropy, I'm talking about the totally cold, frozen state known as a Bose-Einstein condensate, a super dense form of matter wherein all of the atoms smear on top of each other and become unity consciousness. So it is not like saying, I smite thee, I keep you away from God's presence, and you shall suffer in hell and burn in torment forever, while I'll be in heaven, swimming backwards, eating a strawberry. No, it is not like that. It is like saying we exist in the beautiful, pure consciousness, frictionless, perpetual motion machine reality of heaven, the heavens, light network being the third level of a consciousness presence that is bouncing around between all these amazing galaxies. And the guys that aren't supposed to be in existence are non-existent. They're in a stillness state of entropy, non-being, not suffering, not like, I'm suffering. No, and I'm being lighthearted. Apologies to any Pooties that think that I'm mocking them, but I'm being lighthearted. No, not like that. Non-being, that means no consciousness, no awareness, no volition, no motivation, no needs. Like, how I always joke about, like, I got to pay my Geico bill, can actually be considered somewhat of a relief. Like, you don't have to worry about paying your bills anymore. You don't have to worry because they are always about paying their bills by siphoning off of you. That's why they're in your chakras. They're like, yeah, I got bills to pay. You're going to pay them for me. I'm going to get them by making you emit anger, sadness, and grief, and eventually killing you. That's not good. We don't want that. But they're like, hey, got to make a living. It's a living. It ain't pretty, but it's a living. And I'm joking in all of my characterizations, but I hope that you can get where I'm coming from on this. I communicate to them all the time, imaginative encouragement on the levels of how blissful it would be and how amazing it will be when they don't have to worry about paying their bills, getting energy from you, because they're constantly trying to sustain themselves out of the depths of non-being by getting energy of awareness from you. Like, I'm going to be aware, I'm going to be aware, I'm going to get energy from you, I'm going to be alive by getting energy from you. And it's like, no, they ain't supposed to be alive. They are not supposed to be conscious. They are not supposed to be self-aware. And this gives them a pathway to non-existence that is non-suffering. It is merciful. And I just really emphasize this over and over. That's why I don't want them to think like, are you mocking our pain? Like, no, I'm not mocking your pain, but I am being lighthearted in this because it's dark stuff. Planetary rape and continual parasitism and vampirism of human culture and everything bad that they do. Like, this is bad stuff. I smile because it's just horrible. Like, not the smile of an idiot. And lightheartedness is sometimes gallows humor. But this is really about a real solution. So when you embody the flying rainbow lasagna, this is the story of non-duality. Instead of, I hate you, you hate me, struggling eternally. What you do is flying rainbow lasagna, which is where you say, I am going to energy. I am all the characteristics that are supposed to be. I'm the essential central core timeline, the lean essential version of who I am, and any of these pesky occupiers of the interstices that don't belong in your chakras go to entropy. Take back all of the energy from them and make sure they don't have any energy. You take like a sponge absorbing water or something like that. Suck back in all of your energy from them. And that is also part of what the practice of mindful eating is about. I'm totally focused on my mouth crystals and what it feels like to chomp into that sandwich. And that is also what focused activities are like. I am totally focused on my music. When I play, I got my headphones on and I'm in that moment. And I'm like, whoa, 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 like I'm in the moment. It's profound. It's a profound feeling. But then sometimes I'm like, I'm driving on the highway. This guy is in front of me. This guy is like, I have moments of distraction too. I want you to know, on the path to being completely profoundly focused all the time. But all of us, let us cultivate our own energy. Stay focused in the moment. Stay focused in your own love energy. Don't allow energy to be unduly chomped by the piranhas that are like, I want your sadness and your anger and your grief and your sorrow and your grumpiness and your mild discomfort. I want to chomp all of these things. You're like, no, I don't want to give you that food. I actually want to stay in love and above. And that's why it can be hard to do that, because sometimes the world sucks and things are painful and distressing. And that's why I try to be lighthearted. And I also try to give 89% of my verbal energy to ascension and the real world of what I remember and being a light eater and what it feels like to be in that realm. And then only a small acknowledgement of what the suckiness of suckers feels like, because they're here, but they are not our inevitable reality. Our inevitable reality is returning to the world of being a coherent light eater. And you will remember all of this, and it is part of your journey of learning and accreting light. Why are we in this pocket world? It ain't pretty. Like, it's not fun to be here. There are lessons to be learned. And then we've learned those lessons and we get to transcend this level of reality and return in strength to the level of reality where we are completely non-degraded gods and goddesses and immortals again, with the continuity of consciousness of remembering what we have been through. And meanwhile, knowing that those consciousness pesky invaders are in a state of peace. That is what true peace is. It is the sense of that they don't have any needs anymore. It's not like they're sitting there saying like, I hope one day I get to be in existence. Like, having no food is really uncomfortable. They're like, no, they don't have volition or desires or needs or anything. They are non-existent. And that is the balance of flying rainbow lasagna, how the flying rainbow lasagna resolves to duality, the things that are supposed to exist and the things that are not supposed to exist. And the things that are not supposed to exist don't exist. They do not exist. And the things that are supposed to exist, personalities, characteristics, and organisms, do exist. So now I'm going to go back to the questions in the chat and also open the room to anyone else who wants to be able to say anything. An earlier comment that I missed earlier from Trisha says, some people are receiving pictures and faces in their crystals. Very, very interesting in terms of the insights that people are beginning to achieve as their inner faculties, their higher faculties are awakening. And then you also wrote down here, Aurora, can we say they are programmable matter and the rest is the true us, divine expressed in uniqueness? So programmable matter, we're talking about the nanotechnology and black goo and non-natural stuff. I think that's what you're referring to when you say these things of what, let me just drink a little bit. What are they? Where do they come from? They essentially, yes, are influencing our world, referring to the Putis, yes. Right now in our world, we have this stuff that is called black goo. It's sprayed as chemtrails. It is programmable matter. It is an exotic matter, exotic meaning not original to Earth's technology, the terrestrial technosphere. It is manufactured elsewhere, kind of in a hyperdimensional reality, and then gets sprayed on all of us. Yuck, poop, gross. Do your detoxing, everyone, because it's totally gross stuff. And it creates a type of interdimensional portal within the human neurology by creating a false overlay, an augmented reality, where these putis can speak to us more forcefully than they would be able to speak otherwise. The voices of the peanut gallery are amplified through the ingestion of black goo. It is a great challenge. And again, it is a challenge that was not faced 2,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago. There have been amazing avatars and teachers here throughout human history. They didn't face chemtrails as we are facing chemtrails. So you have to be a super cosmic badass, warrior of the mind to be able to detoxify your body, eject the black goo that you don't want inside of you, programmable matter in the sense of, really all matter is programmable. I talk about water responding to consciousness, and we are moving into a level of flying rainbow lasagna reality wherein the outside reflects the inside, and we are no longer just in a world of matter, we are in a world of spirit matter, which I have sometimes jokingly thought of calling spatter, but then spatter sounds like something that happens when you have an axe murder, so then I said, no, it can't be called spatter, but spirit matter. My body is made of spirit matter. And this world is largely becoming something that is made out of spirit matter, matter that responds directly to mind. So these pesky occupiers of the interstices are part of an interdimensional organization, for lack of a better word, a culture, like a gross culture. Sorry, guys. Apologies to the Putis, but they are gross in what they are. And they cultivate this type of antithesis matter. Like there's positive spirit matter, and then there's antithesis, which is like this black goo, like it definitely responds to consciousness and is a portal for consciousness, but not the consciousness that is actually supposed to be in existence, for the consciousness that is aberrant, aberrance meaning something that is not supposed to exist. So they have many different tools and ploys and tricks and everything that they're trying to do in order to try to come into being and try to sustain themselves, but they are not supposed to be in existence. And then all of the black goo in the whole entire world is not going to solve what they really need. Oh, sorry, there's something so loud outside. What they really need is to be able to eat pure light. And all the human Yaros are going to be empty. Their chicken coops are going to be empty very soon. They're going to wake up one morning and they're going to see like, there's no more chickens in our chicken coops. What are we going to eat? There's no more humans in our human Yaros. What are we going to eat? Who are we going to eat? Because you know what happens? Poof. You guys, we all ascend. We all go into a higher dimensional reality that is based entirely upon love, tone, and higher. No more of their food, no more of their rotten hot dogs. They don't have the capacity to feed off of us. So their real problem is not that they need to farm us more effectively, but that the problem is that they require food or sustenance at all, because it is actually part of their original religion, their ancient religion or belief system, to go away from God and to go into entropy. And they got turned around somewhere along the way. And they decided, I'm going to eat you. I'm going to feed off of you. But what they were always supposed to do was to go into a state of non-being. That is what they're really supposed to do. So as they come to our planet and they say, I'm going to rape you, planet Earth, or I'm hungry, I'm going to eat your consciousnesses. I'm going to make treasure into trash, and I'm going to eat the trash. As they do that, what they're really saying is, I need to be unmade. I need to return to my true state as a non-being. And that is what my culture really is about. So there are a lot of things that are going on in our world right now that are technological, that are meant to inhibit or delay natural ascension, or to create a sense of false ascension. That is not the real thing, like some kind of whatever false, I want to say like false hamburger instead of the real hamburger, like not the real thing. And you have to use your discernment also in recognizing you don't want to be uploaded to some kind of a virtual reality that's like fake bliss, like I'm making a face of a lobotomized person, like join me, it's bliss, it feels great, everything is fantastic. Like, no, it's not fantastic, because you don't want to be uploaded into some kind of a computerized world, even if they make it blissful, because we don't require technology, we don't require any intermediaries. All you require is your birthday suit, your body being, your consciousness, divinity, and your consciousness and connection to the divine. Aaron says the concept of mind-created realms reminds me of turning a corner or opening a door in a lucid dream with intention, expectation, and seeing what shows up. Beautiful description, Aaron. And this world becomes our lucid dream. Right now, the planetary dream has been a nightmare for an uncountable amount of time, many, many generations. There's been scarcity, violence, war, rape, the lowest level of what could be called civilization or culture, all of it coming out of fear. And we're in this moment in a dream where you wake up and you start to realize, not awaken from the dream, but when you become aware in the dream and you're like, this feels kind of weird. I'm in my pajamas, I'm at a restaurant, this isn't regular reality. I think I'm in a dream. And in that moment, there's an amazing level of empowerment. Like, well, if I'm in a dream, theoretically, I can be doing anything. I can be, hang gliding. I can be, wind surfing. I don't have to just be doing something boring. So we are becoming part of the lucid dream, inside reflecting the outside of the planet. And we are also not just manifesting any old random crapola, we're manifesting what is the truthfulness of our divine connection, playing the music as virtuosos as it is given to us by the cosmic symphony. Our planet is changing and transforming. So each one of you has a divine life path, central core timeline that is not random or arbitrary. The things that you do and say and experience every day, and where you get your resources and whom you talk with and the person that you are, is not random or arbitrary. It is all actually divinely ordained. There's a plan for your life, and that's what ascending and ascended mastery is. And when you embody that plan for your life, you are a part of the healing of this planet, the healing of this level of reality, and a return to the lucid dream that is a positive dream of all of these levels of consciousness that have been here imprisoned within a nightmare. So we're actually in this moment of great real hopefulness, even as I acknowledge the suffering that is very real, or turmoil or confusion or difficulties. And also as you ascend into real beautiful levels of real bliss, recognize that those beings who have been suffering on the interstices also go into their version of a blissful state of non-existence, that it is positive resolution, healing for everything, not like hot, like I'll see you in hell from heaven. None of that type of condescension, or looking down on something, which can be difficult because when you're unhealed, you're like, hey, you effed me up and I'm really mad at you. So this moment now is not only a time of self-acceptance in like, yes, we eat food, and yes, we are learning these lessons and we're going through these things. It is lessons of transformation of experience and forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, but none of this is a validation or sweeping under the carpet of very real injuries. So the injuries really need to be healed in order for the Putis to truly be at rest, in order for the violences and sexual violences and degradations to truly be healed and not reverberate anymore, and for all of these nightmarish thought forms to truly not be in effect in our reality. No problem, Lucy arrived late. Liz apologizing for arriving late, and we're happy to connect with you. Thank you for being here. And I know it's a long class today. I want to keep while the recording is going. Any other questions or comments, or anything that anybody wants to add, because sometimes there's something that is really relevant. I hope it gets recorded for the rest of the class. So opening the door now to anybody who wants to either speak, unmute, or say something in the chat.
Hi, Aurora. It's nice to see you and everyone. I have a question, which if you're address it in a future class, let's not go into it now. What about problem entities that are non-Pooties. It seems to me there are entities walking around in human form right now that are really problematic, not only to the collective, but to the personal, peace of mind. And so I've been sort of struggling between focusing on my positive attitude, creating, and sort of sinking into worry, fear. I fight it a little bit, but I'm curious, what do you do, or what do you suggest that one does to deal with or not deal with those non-Pooties entities?
Thank you. I'm so happy that you asked that while the recording is going, because it's so relevant to everybody's journey, that we really must acknowledge that there are those of us who are good students, quote unquote, in the schoolhouse of reality, trying earnestly to do our math homework, trying honestly to do the long division. It's not easy. We're trying to move towards ascension and do these life lessons and self-cultivation and move forward. And then I've even had to learn, like, there are some people that are intentionally bad students. They're like, I'm not studying, I'm writing everything wrong, I'm doing the long division wrong on purpose, like F you, that's it. They're just that way. And so I literally only had that realization maybe 4 weeks ago, because I'm a computer analyst of the world and a systems analyst. And I'm like, oh, there's a problem in the system. I'll just show you where your mistakes are and everything will be fine. And then I had to learn, like, oh, I showed them where their mistakes are and they didn't want to change. Like, wait a minute, how can that be? How can you not want to change? Because I was coming at it from the presumption that everybody wants to be an A student. So acceptance now tells me, oh, some people don't want to be an A student, but real love and acceptance means, and freedom. I want to be an A student. The planet wants to be an A student. The entire solar system and all light everywhere wants all of us to be A students. So there is a balance, again, the lessons that we learn while walking on the planet, between self and community. And it's not acceptable to say, well, I want to F everything up and I want to be an F student. And we know what F stands for now. I want to be an F student and I want to F you and F everything. And I'm self-destructive and care nothing for anything and want to not effort in the right direction. I'm intentionally putting effort in the wrong direction. And it's actually not acceptable for those beings to dictate a negative version of reality to all of us. So then you get to say, I set a boundary about, I'm allowed to be in a reality where I'm free, where I am not tortured, where I am not limited, where I'm on the pathway of ascension. And this is literally the story of our planet. Our entire planet in Atlantis was in the process of planetary ascension when we got invaded. And so there's this whole question of, well, free will, are those guys allowed to be very, bad math students? Are they allowed to make bad time machines that make them be smeared on the edge of your chakras? Are they allowed to do this type of negative, harmful, interdimensional experimentation where they make a mess that timeline bleed through on all these different layers of the time tapestry that they don't know how to fix up? Are they allowed to do that? And the answer is no, of course not, because coherent light and all this interconnectivity means that we are interdependent and that the things that you do actually matter and actually bleed through to yourself, to others, to other layers of reality. None of this, I'm looking out for number one type of stuff. So it's not acceptable in terms of cosmic law for them to be like, I'm acting in, I'm free to be crap, I'm free to be F. They're not free to be F, and it is an ongoing rectification event where each one of us sets a boundary. And big, the planet is alive and has a say, has a vote. The time field is alive and has a say. The time field is the living time tapestry that I've printed on my dress here. It's not just an abstract math pattern. It's a very alive, real presence that gets to say, you know something, I want to be sustained, and in order to be sustained, I need to have an integrity, a staying togetherness, and that these bad math students, even though they purport to be asserting their freedom of unique individuality and self-direction, are having a negative impact that it radiates upward, outward, and throughout the layers of reality to the point of threatening the existence of the entire time field. And it's not okay to have that level of collateral damage, to say, oh, well, because I am self-destructive, I therefore get to destroy the entirety of time. And nobody gets to play with time. You know, it's like saying, not just like, I'll take my toys and go home from the sandbox. It's like saying, I will destroy my toys. I will destroy your toys. I will destroy the sandbox. I will destroy the existence of sand. I will destroy the existence of the playground. I will destroy everything. That, of course, would represent a mentality that requires an enormous amount of healing, and also is a totally inappropriate assertion, because the time field itself gets to say, oh, I don't want that to happen to me. I want to be alive. Just like if you had an infection on your hand that was like, I'm allowed to infect you. I'm a nasty bug. I'm going to eat you. I'm going to, destroy you or whatever. And your body is allowed to say like, well, nice try, but I want to be alive. And this is my hand. I'm allowed to be alive. So everything that is experienced with consciousness within time. And we can also look at this as the divine presence too, but just looking at the time animal and knowing that it is an alive, sentient, conscious being that has its own agenda very appropriately, and its own needs and purpose and desires for itself, means that there is a boundary that is acceptable. To say, oh, well, just because these beings over here are doing this does not mean that they get to destroy everything, collateral damage for everything. So those of us who are in alignment with the symphony of life, you want to stay alive, you want your planet to stay alive, you want time to stay alive, you want God to stay alive, are incredibly empowered in response to these beings. So there are, we could just call them self-destructive. Like there are also, believe it or not, beings who are like you and I with chakra systems who embrace the pooties, that are just like, oh, peanut gallery, live inside of me. I'll feed the parasites. Parasites want this, parasites want that. I'll give it to you. Like parasites want crystal meth. I'll give it to you. Parasites want alcohol. I'll give it to you. And parasites want me to go around like raping and plundering. I'll do it for you. But then they're also like that guy eating steak in the Matrix. They're like, but you're going to have to give me a comfortable life. And the parasites are like, okay, we're in a symbiotic relationship. You take crystal meth and run around like an axe murderer, and we'll sustain you and give you like comforts in life. Like, you know, I'm exaggerating, of course, for the purposes of comedic lightheartedness, but it is actually very dark stuff, that some people make agreements to allow their bodies and their lives to be run by occupiers of the interstices, demonic presences. It's not the same as a possession that is non-consensual. It is a consensual demonic inhabitation. And some people do that. And then they're hoping to get some level of power. And then some of them are like, and what do I care if I die? I'll just go, you know, to live on the interstices. That it doesn't, you understand? Like they look at it as a non-consequential action. So there are those beings whom, of course, would destabilize the time field, and it's not acceptable. And then there are, like you would say, whatever, a negative spiritual presence, a non-embodied presence, something that doesn't have a body. But here's the big thing. It's that old song, I ain't got nobody. If you ain't got nobody, you have done something wrong. If you have done something right, your consciousness in a body, you actually have an instrument and a piano to play the song of life. And if you don't have a body, it's because you did your math homework very poorly. No offense, but there are very clear parameters about what is correct and what is incorrect. And if you don't follow those parameters, then you don't have a body. And if you don't have a body, you should either be in entropy or be recycling back to the source for some type of re-emission, game over, try again type of experience. But this whole thing of like hanging around in a semi-corporeal form, that is not supposed to be at all. And that is not what we had in ancient antediluvian Atlantis. What we had then was either you're at the source, the potential of divine energy and experience not yet emitted, or you're in a body, emitted and connected to the divine source of energy and intelligence. But no, there was no death. There was no afterlife. There was no after existence. There was no gray wandering plane of Sheol. There was no Bardo. There was no Bardo Todal. There was no membranes. There were membranes, but they were not occupied. They were clear places. This whole idea of afterlife and all of the deification of beings that rule afterlife and the souls there, and what is the soul journey and who is shepherding whom across the river Styx, and all these different things, all of these conceptions that mortal humans have that have populated the astral realm or the realm of pure thoughts with these different gods or deities or sub-deities or demiurges or shepherds or those who are interactive with you upon the moment of non-corporeality, who's on the membrane of depth? Thought forms. And thought forms are sustained by your thoughts and by your prayers and by your supplications and by your body being and everything like that. That's not supposed to be. You're not supposed to have afterlife or after existence or ghosts or spirits or any of these presences. So really the answer to your beautiful wonderment or questing question is that there's not supposed to, those are beings who are aberrances and they are not supposed to be. But a lot of them be like, who are you calling an aberrance? Like, I'm supposed to this and that, and I'm a this and that. Like there's, again, they say, I'm allowed to be this and make my math homework wrong. But when it really gets up to the higher levels of justice, cosmic law, and upholding the structure of the cosmos, which is what we are approaching as we are ascending, please understand that you're approaching these levels of purity, like the way that math and math functions are just very pure. Like if you do your math homework right, you're going in this direction and you're experiencing this. And if you're going in this direction, like you're going to experience this. And a lot of time, like just don't argue with me. You know what I mean? That's why I use the example of a math homework. It's very different than English homework, you know, which is all interpretive and subjective and flowery and poetic. No joke, I'm joking. You're flowery, poetic, you know, silly. No, it's not silly, it's beautiful, but it's different than math, where there's just no quibbling and no negotiations. Like 1 + 1 = 2. Just don't argue with me, all right? And that's kind of what the time field is saying with all of this. So these beings that are trying to be like, but a bargain and just barter, and this, and have some of this, and if we can just negotiate here and negotiate. It's like, no, setting down just means this. And that might sound harsh, but it's not harsh. It is actually very appropriate. And there's a reason for these strong boundaries, because they actually uphold the integrity of time itself. You want to have a playground? You want to have a sandbox? You want to have the existence of sand? Just follow these parameters. If you negotiate, but this is about, then you have no more playground. Then you have no more playground, and that's why you can't allow that level of wateriness and dilution to occur. Have to be strong in a lot of these things. And also you can sense from me, like I call myself a cosmic law enforcement and I'm a time cop, and I'm very much in that sense of, no, like we are not going to negotiate about this. We're about this and this and this, and then this math homework is wrong. And that's a great inconvenience to some of these beings. They're like, but can't I just negotiate this and this? It's like, no, I'm sorry that you can't do that, because there's a reason for it. There's a reason, and I'm not just being unduly harsh or power abuser, power tripping. I'm not just doing that. I'm actually upholding these very real constructs of interconnected cosmic laws, which are foundational and which allow for existence to happen. So our existence is a miracle, along with photosynthesis. The existence of time is a miracle. It's not by happenstance. It's amazing that it's here, and it's amazing that we are embedded within it. And it's a privilege and a glory to be able to have these experiences and to be moving through time like this. It's not okay to have things F up time, have students F up time, or self-serving beings, or anything that is just stupid or ignorant, which is actually, when you learn the cosmic history of what some of these beings are, like if you're like, if you could talk to them, if I could talk to the Pooties, walk with the Pooties, being really silly, that's from Dr. Dolittle. If you could talk to some of these negative entities and be like, where'd you come from? What's your story? Hey man, what's your story? Negative ghost, how'd you get where you are? Like, how'd you F your life so badly that you are where you are? You would find out that they did a lot of false calculations in their trajectories, and then ended up in a place where it's like, oh, now my back is against the wall and I don't know what to do. So I'm gonna get energy from you. None of this is okay, because it's the antithesis of taking personal responsibility. So in this whole journey, part of what we learn walking on the ground is the importance of taking personal responsibility. At the level that I am at as Aurora Collective, a neurological signal traveling upon the network of all stars and all consciousness, everything is shown, everything is known, everything you take personal responsibility for. So you can't be like, oh yeah, like I left that pile of dirty interdimensional socks over there. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. Just moving on. You have to be like, oh, I actually left those piles of dirty socks there, and I have to take responsibility for it and do something about it, because I actually emanated that or created that or am connected to that in some way. Beings that have painted themselves into a corner or brought themselves into a negative or uncomfortable or inconvenient self state, where they then feel that they have to either take energy from you or siphon energy off of the living or find some way to justify their incredibly wrong long division, they are not taking responsibility. And so the setting of boundaries and my strength, like, you know what I mean? Like not wimpiness, like my non-waveringness, my strength in setting these boundaries is basically like saying you have to learn to take responsibility, not you, but this thing that I'm talking to has to learn to take responsibility for what it has done and the ramifications of its choices. And then mostly what ends up happening when the spotlight is really there, when there's no wiggle room, is okay, I did the thing. Okay, I'm responsible. And then, okay, there's no way to negotiate my way out of this. And then mostly what that means is go into a state of non-being, which is really when the nanny speaks to the children and then the children are like, okay, fine, we have to go to bed. We're not allowed to run around throwing mashed potatoes everywhere and making a big mess, which is what they've been doing for a long time. So this is also kind of like a recognition of the immaturity of those levels of being, that they have been running around without taking their levels of cosmic responsibility, and that in order for them to level up, they have to go into a state of non-being. And then you know what happens? The energy, any true energy presence that is a part of them, like there's like layers and layers of falsehood, but if you get down like the Tootsie Roll, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? You know, taking away the layers of falsehood until you get to finally the true core persona, the center of the Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop. You find out who they really are. And that little spark of who they really are is like, oh, I did everything really, really wrong. Gonna have to try it again in the right way. And so goes into a state of non-being, because consciousness is not discardable. It is not disposable. We don't throw it out the window. But what happens is it's all way, way, way over here. It's out the window. It's out the door. It's across the courtyard. It's not in the right place where it's supposed to be at all. There's no way for it to get to where it needs to go. So it needs to go to a state of non-being and then essentially be re-emitted or go back to the beginning. Words fail. Go back to its starting position to be able to then try it again from a completely different format. So that is essentially the exploration of wrong notes, the exploration of what happens when you do things wrong, and you end up hitting a brick wall. That in all this, the cosmic lesson for all of these beings, when they start to explore, what if I do everything wrong? I want to live an existence or a lifetime where I do everything wrong. Let's do it. It's like, okay, here's freedom. You get to do it. And they do it. And then at a certain point, it's like, and then I hit a brick wall. And then there was no further direction I could go. And then I had to go into a state of non-being. Dun, dun. Pac-Man. Then that's like a lighthearted way of saying it, but it's not that lighthearted for them. But in some sense, at a certain point, they get to such a profound level of suffering and such a profound level of distress that they're just like, I will go to entropy. That is really what happens with some of these consciousnesses that don't want to go to bed, like naughty children, because it's fun. Throwing mashed potatoes everywhere is fun. Effing things up is fun. But at a certain point, they go into profound levels of distress, and it is not fun for them at all. And I am not a person who enjoys seeing consciousness suffer in any way. That is literally why I created the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. They have a pathway to go to entropy. There is a solution for what to do with these things so they don't have to be suffering endlessly until the entropic heat death of the universe, which could be 13 billion years of like standing there suffering without being able to get any gas in their car to go where they need to go, because that causes suffering for them, suffering for the entire cosmos. We all don't need that level of suffering. We need to have them be at peace and us be at peace. So I hope that that gave some good practical wisdom in the sense, I hope that that answered your question in the sense of practical wisdom, what to do, like if there are non-embodied, troublesome aspects of consciousness, fragmentary fragments, semi-embodied, like possessing someone's life, or walking around some kind of spirit or ghost or interdimensional being, all of those kind of go into the same, you know, giant bag, the bag of things that are not supposed to exist, the bag of things that are heading towards a dead end. But while they're exploring what happens if I'm an F student, we all deserve to be A students. And then you start to see the interconnectedness of coherent light and the interconnectedness of consciousness and the interconnectedness of the time field. And then it's not like you're allowed to trash the world. You're not allowed to trash the world because it's my world and you're trashing me. So then all of us and the time field itself get to stand up and say, you are not allowed to trash the world and you are not allowed to trash me. And here is a solution and you will take this solution. So we are heading towards these levels of healing and rectification. And that is what's happening on the really, really deep, abstract, profound level. And then also in our physical presence here in the world, our bodies are changing, our materiality is changing. We're manifesting tiny screws and wheelbarrows and more, and constantly reaching higher. So if any, I think I have to wrap it up soon, but any other questions or comments before I do wrap it up? And thank you for that. Just going to give you one more moment. If anybody wants to raise their hand or say anything, if not, then I will say thank you. I will say thank you again in acknowledgement of all of the work that you as non-F students, you're the A students, actually doing self-cultivation work, actually trying to figure out your long division, actually trying to play the right notes in the world, actually recognizing the interconnectivity of your own life path and the things that you are doing and saying and thinking and how you reverberate and send that ripple effect, send that outward, doing your own healing, ancestral healing, planetary healing, personal empowerment, and learning the lessons that we learn when we are embodied and walking on the planet as being incredibly valuable work. Your lives matter, your experiences matter, your efforts are valued and recognized by the larger alive time field that and the sun and the stars, because again, we're quantum entangled and photons are feelers, and we self-state up there, out there, around there, knows what's going on, cares about your life, is absolutely in compassion and encouragement of who you are, and also just on a personal, moment to moment ego level, please remain hopeful in a genuine sense, even though I know that sometimes it can be a difficult slog through hard emotions and unpleasant emotions. Please know that you do eventually burst forth into a completely beautiful, expansive, redefined reality. Please know that it happens. Please stay strong and keep going, because we already have traveled such an amazing amount in our trajectory. And every day, like seriously, every day you travel 1 million miles. The time between breakfast and lunch is like 10 million years are condensed between these moments, and it just keeps on getting greater and greater. So time dilation, we are experiencing an enormous amount of personal growth and transformation every day, and it keeps on getting jam-packed even more and more. So please know that you're actually getting someplace on this soul journey marathon, that it's not always extreme duress, and that you do eventually break the tape, burst forth into just a wonderful, amazing, expansive vista, which has a completely different quality of experience than anything that you've experienced up to this point. That's the positive stuff that I want to give my voice to. So thank you.